For many, this is the time of year where people come together and put aside their differences. They forgive and rekindle friendships, bury the hatchet, clean the slate, as it were. And I'm sure there'll be time for that. But today, I say screw all that nonsense. I'm here for a fight. Christianity is built on a broken and disgusting view of love and justice. Judaism is built on fabrications and self-superiority, and Islam is built on the lies of a murderer and child predator. But just in case you think I'm only hitting the big ones, Rastafari is built on the same misunderstanding of history as the Black Hebrew Israelites. Hinduism is built on a mismatch of silly stories and hate, and Buddhism is built on magic and wishful thinking parading as compassion and rationality. I'm feeling fired up, y'all, and I don't think there is a single person out there who has good justification based on their own criteria to believe these or any other religions. I could be wrong, and I'm open to change my mind, but you have to call. The lines are open, and the show is starting right now. Woo! Welcome, everyone. Today is December 8th, 2024. I'm your host, Secular Rarity, and I am joined today by two wonderful people. First, Armin Navabi. What is up, man?
Hey, I miss co-hosting with you.
Hey, it's always good to be hanging out with you, man. You're busy. You're doing a lot of stuff these days, man.
Yes.
Fighting the good fight all the way around the world. I always love that. And
this is my third stream today.
Third stream today. Man, dude. Yeah, go touch some grass or something after this, right?
I will. I will.
Joining us for the first time, we have Justin from the Deconstruction Zone. What is up, dude?
Welcome. Thanks for having me on. I'm really glad to be here. It's an honor to share a screen with both of you.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited. I stumbled across your channel and your videos a little while ago, and I was telling you before we started, you know, I was lurking in one of the lives, and I was like, man, you know, this guy's got some good arguments, you know, some good knowledge and stuff. And then like a day or two went by, and I looked back at your channel, and I was like, holy crap, this guy is like a 9-hour live stream you're doing, man. I mean, you were putting in the work. Tell everybody here that may not be familiar with you, like how'd you get involved with doing this? What do you do? How long have you been doing? Just tell us everything, man. Just give it all to us.
Yeah. So I was actually in school for ministry, and I was in ministry for quite some time. I went to Bible college and seminary. And it was learning the academic side of Christianity and the Bible that really began my deconstruction. And I started getting involved in the deconstruction space quite a few years after I already deconstructed, because it started to become popular, and I started to notice there was not a lot of people that knew where to turn to for asking questions or for building community. So I kind of got online and was hoping that I can sort of create a deconstruction community of sorts. And I kind of discovered that it was really easily done on TikTok. TikTok's very interactive. You get to talk to people in real time. And so I kind of got on TikTok, started doing deconstruction there. I never intended to be doing debates. That wasn't really a thing that I thought was a necessity. But as it turns out, when you're up on social media and you're questioning belief systems and you're breaking them down, people get pretty fired up. And so over the course of time, it just turned out that all of my live streams kind of became debate streams. And believe it or not, it helps a lot of people. I have quite a few people who come to me after the debates that say, listen, you really helped me figure some things out that I was already questioning. And now I feel like I have the knowledge to actually put my flag in the ground and say, this is why I believe the thing that I believe, or this is why I don't believe the thing. Yeah. And for me, I want people to believe things that are true. And I think the truth can always stand up to scrutiny. But it just happened to be that the Bible couldn't stand up to scrutiny, which means it can't be true.
Yeah, definitely, man. And I love that aspect of your story where you're saying, like, you know, honestly, I wasn't intending to go out there and to do these, kind of challenge, kind of heated back and forth. I mean, I like I said, man, I've seen some of them. Some people get pretty upset about you saying, what I think is some pretty mundane stuff, like all of Jesus's prophecies in the Bible failed, right? Or there is no archaeological evidence that proves the Bible is true or anything. You get quite a lot of heat, man, and I just think it's so counter to that narrative of the atheists are all angry, and they just want to go out there and pick fights and stuff. And it's like, no, actually, man, I just came here to have a little community and talk with some people. And next thing I know, I have all these religious people beating down my door that definitely give us some crap. And, but that's good, because that's, why you and Armin are here today. I did that little intro and just lobbed grenades, and I'm just going to sit back and let you guys take them, because I have other things to do on here. So, like, for instance, I have to let all of you know, even though I'm sure you probably do already, but the Atheist Experience is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. All very, very good things. And all things that, honestly, if you heard any one of those listed off and were just like, I don't like that one, you call us, talk about it. I'm happy to have that conversation. Anybody that ever wants to stand on the, like, I think critical thinking is bad, it's like, yeah, man, talk to me. I'll gladly have that fight. But we cannot.
Have you had that? Have you had that call?
Somebody I haven't. No, I haven't. That's what I'm saying. Okay. No. I'm sure somebody out there, though, man. There's all kinds of weird beliefs, I'm sure there's somebody that's like, no, I believe that thinking critically about your beliefs is bad. But we have a couple of wonderful good calls already. I'm seeing the lines fill up, but we got some more. But before we do that, I am going to give you last week's results of the Share Your Experience. So last week, we asked you all, you've heard of the golden rule, but what is the silver rule? So here are our top 3 favorites. Number 3 from QC says, the sterling silver rule, do unto others, but only if you're at least 92.5% sure they'll do it back. Just for anybody that isn't aware, sterling silver is 92.5% pure. So that was I love that. I love that very much. I make jewelry, and we often use better than sterling, and it's 97.5. It doesn't matter. But I saw that one and really laughed, QC. So thank you. We've got number 2 from Torsten Phil saying the silver rule: socks first, then shoes. Yes, that's very important. I think, trying to do that the other way around would cause a lot of confusion in society today, and we just don't need that. We've got too much. Number 1 from Flubber549 saying silver rule: never buy silver coins from TV commercials. Yeah, I'm always impressed how every single one of those commercials seems to have the same premise, that like we're running out of silver or something. And then they're always like, so buy ours. And it's like, wait, how did you get a hold of it? Okay. So I love that. And we've got another one for you. And in case anybody is new, it's pretty simple how we do this. You put your answers in the comment section below the video, and then we might pick it. We might read yours off. So you tune in next week at the beginning to hear it. If you put it in the live chat, we will just make fun of you mercilessly. We will ridicule you until the end of the show. Or, it'll probably just disappear and nobody will remember it. So don't do that. Put it in the comments. But hey, Justin, Armin, this week we've got a prompt, okay? And I want an answer from you guys first. What is a good comeback when somebody says, I didn't come from no monkey? What's a good comeback to that?
I mean, neither did we.
Monkey.
All right. I mean, I didn't know what the prompt for today is, so I don't have a clever, funny answer. But I would just tell them that, you're like everybody who denies evolution. You don't even understand what you're denying. We share common ancestors with monkeys. We don't come from monkeys.
Okay.
I don't have a clever comeback. Do you have a clever comeback?
No, that's straightforward.
Well, I can tell you exactly what somebody in my family would say. They would say, well, you smell like one. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, not bad.
No anti-monkey hate here. I love monkeys.
That's true. We are pro primates in general, I think, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, on my live stream, I can't say that kind of thing because I can't smell anyone, but I usually go into a tangent on how endogenous retroviruses basically prove that we have common ancestors with the great apes, and people don't really have a response for that usually.
Right. You just give them an actual lesson in like biology and history and whatnot. Yeah, it just shuts them up. Look, I know that our wonderful audience will come up with some phenomenally good responses, both serious and silly and everywhere in between, whatever that is. But get those in the comment section. Remember, if you put them in the live chat, we will just make fun of you mercilessly and we will not pick it. So it's going to be a waste of your time. But before we grab one of these great calls, I'm seeing some others come in. We have some things to do. I've got some things to read, and I got to tell you about some stuff. So we have a $1.99 super chat from Jonathan France saying cubes. Thank you, Jonathan. I always appreciate that. And we always appreciate you. You are always hanging out here with us. And we also have this one, a $5 super chat from Nero, who has been a member for a year. Thank you so much for that. Saying, I'm sure some contemporary prophet saw the preaching madman and spoke as though in aside, they're gonna kill him. Yeah. I think so, probably. And glad to meet you, Justin. Yeah, we are glad to have you on here. And then we have $10 super chat from Miranda Rensberger.
Oh, no.
Been a member for 6 months. Thank you so much. And Miranda is saying, super chats to make the hosts keep their clothes on. Come on, that's just extortion. And you know what? I can't comment on that legally, but what I can tell you is that we are doing this challenge here today, y'all, okay? So, pretty simple. YouTube does this thing. They let us offer these challenges for you. So, the challenge that we're doing today is, because they won't let me strip. And I wanted to I said, I'm going to come on here and just get it going, just letting it all loose. And they said, how about this? Every $10 super chat, you will put on another article of clothing. So we've already got one. So I am going to put this on as we start to talk to our callers. And for every $10 super chat by the end of this, we will see how that goes. I will say this because we're live now and they can't do anything about it. You know, if we don't get there, I'm just stripping. If we don't get there, I'm taking all the clothes off. It's going to happen. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, give us your super chats. We'll say silly things. We'll do silly things. And if you've got other ideas, by the way, if you've got an idea for something silly I can do, feel free to offer it. You know, I'm pretty open. Again, remember, my suggestion was taking my clothes off. So I am going to put this t-shirt on as we grab a call. So we are going to go out to Ohio. No pronouns given. We've got Caleb and thinks Abiogenesis is in. There we are. Sorry, something happened. Hey, Caleb, you are live talking with Justin and Armin. What is up?
Hi there, guys. Thank you for being so gracious as to answer my call, so that way we'd have the opportunity to discuss this very important and big topic. So anyway, I would like to just kind of state my position, which I think you guys kind of already know, and give the reason why I don't think abiogenesis is possible, and then ask you guys your opinion on it, because I wouldn't want to assume anything and then put up like a straw man or whatever.
Sure, go for it.
So when considering how life begun, there are really only two options, as you guys know. So either it happened naturally, or it didn't. It was like an intelligent source of some kind. I'm not specifying. I'm a Christian, but I'm not specifying here.
Yeah, can
It's
I
a
real
false
quick?
dichotomy.
The reason
Yeah,
why,
yeah, real quick, Caleb. I wanted to address that too. What Armin was saying. Go ahead, real quick. Just say the false dichotomy thing, Armin.
No, like you say there's only two options. You didn't. Can you demonstrate that you have exhausted all other possibilities?
well, I mean, it's like there's a natural source, there's a natural cause, which would be something like abiogenesis. But if it's not natural, then what is it? Think about it.
Well, but that's hang on. We can go there in a second. But I just real quick. That wasn't what you said at the beginning, right? And that was why Armin jumped in and why I wanted to jump in too. I'm with you if what you say is either life started naturally or not naturally. I'm comfortable with that. That is a true dichotomy. It's just that, and I'll go ahead and give away the game on my end for you, Caleb. Like, yeah, the next step for me is going to be, what does that mean to be not natural? Like, I don't understand that, and I'm going to need some help, genuinely. But if you want to say, hey, man, life either was created or was not created, or it came about naturally or not naturally, either of those, I'm with you, man.
Right, because it could be possible that abiogenesis, the explanation that we have currently, is not the best explanation, but that there's another naturalistic explanation. So when we make it the dichotomy, either naturalistic or non-naturalistic, I think that's more of a true dichotomy than saying that it was either God or abiogenesis.
Mm-hmm. What you got, Caleb?
Also, Caleb, are you familiar with the Miller experiment?
What was that?
Are you familiar with the Miller experiment? I just wanted. Are you familiar with the Miller experiment? I just want to know if you know that.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
I know what it is.
So you've seen that experiment, and you still think this is not possible without a God, even though you know experiments kind of indicate that it is possible.
Well, there was another. I was going to actually touch on that. So you guys beat me to it. But anyway, I was going to kind of like give the reasons now, if you guys would be fine with that, to why I don't think abiogenesis is possible and why I do think this points to an intelligence. So
to be sure, though, abiogenesis could be wrong, and it still doesn't mean that your God did it, right? So you're only debunking one of the many possible naturalistic explanations. And you're welcome to try it. I'd love for you to try it, but I don't think that gets you to the conclusion you want.
Yeah, and I see that people in the live chat are already saying different things like about magic and stuff like that. And
yeah, don't worry about the live chat. We're having a conversation. Yeah, don't worry about the live chat or anything, Caleb. Yeah, just give us your reasons. But
okay. Anyway, so I'm going to be, and this might cause an eye roll, but I'm reading out of just this little paragraph right here. I'm not going to read like a whole page here. That'd be unreasonable and stupid of me to do. But out of Return of the God Hypothesis by Stephen C. Meyer, and he mentions how origin of life simulation experiments increasingly suggested that simple chemicals do not arrange themselves into complex information-bearing molecules, nor do they move in life-relevant directions unless, that is, biochemists actively and intelligently guide the process. If undirected chemical processes cannot account for the encoded information found in even the simplest cells, might a directing intelligence have played a role in the origin of life?
Do you, off the top of your head, and it's okay if you don't, because I don't remember either, I'm looking it up right now. Do you know where Stephen C. Meyer teaches?
He went to Cambridge. I think maybe Biola. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Okay. That's where you think he teaches currently, right?
I don't know. He got his education from Cambridge, but I might be mixing Biola up with like William Lane Craig or some other person like that.
Yeah, and that's okay. And like I said, I wasn't positive either. He is a former educator, just so we're both on the same page now. Do you know what his degree is in? Because again, I wasn't positive either, Caleb. So I double, triple checked on this too.
Yeah, I know he was a geophysicist. but he studied philosophy of science, correct?
Yeah. PhD in the philosophy of science. He is often cited as an American historian and author. And the only reason I'm saying that to begin with, before we go any further, Caleb, because I'm happy to address the things that were brought up in that paragraph. But if I sat here, Caleb, and I tried to give you an explanation of American history and said, you know, the Revolutionary War, XYZ, and the Continental Congress, whatever, this and that, and the, you know, articles of blah, blah, whatever, right? And you said, hey, man, that's a real interesting thought. Where'd that come from? And I said, a biochemist. How would you feel about everything that was just read to you? That doesn't mean it's wrong, right? But you'd kind of be like, hey, SR, why are you bringing this up to me, man? I don't give a damn what an American historian has to say about abiogenesis, because all of the people in that field, they regularly use Stephen Meyer as an example for bad science. But I'll give you a second to respond on that, and then I'm sure Justin and Armin have some thoughts on what you read. But what do you think about that, Caleb?
I mean, I think it's interesting, but I mean, he's probably still educated within that area. I don't think we should discount it completely. Like, he did study philosophy of science, and I've heard him say some things that I think shows that he has at least, and I'm saying just at least, like, sort of the sake of argument, some understanding of this, but I don't want to stay on what Stephen C. Meyer as a person or an author or what qualifications he
I totally understand, and I'm not saying that simply because of the things that I mentioned, everything that Stephen C. Meyer says is hot garbage, or that he's a fucking idiot, or anything. No, that is not what I am saying, not in the slightest. But I am just pointing out the disparity between what a philosophy of science PhD says about abiogenesis, when there are, for instance, a lot of people in the evolutionary biology field that say everything that he says is wrong. And between the two, if I've got a funky noise going on in my truck, I'm taking it to the mechanic with 20 years experience in the biz, not the guy down the road who like drives a car also. Right. But yeah, Justin, what do you think, man?
Well, it sounds like what is about to happen is an appeal to authority, but like most of the people that are actually authorities in this field of study disagree with who he's about to read from. So if we're going to make appeals to authority, then we could just appeal to the vast majority of molecular biologists and chemists who disagree and say, no, abiogenesis is the most likely hypothesis. And we've got early evidence that it is possible. We find water and amino acids fully formed on meteorites two different times. We've actually captured this from two different meteors. So like we know even in outer space, the building blocks of life, the building blocks of protein are actually self-assembling. So abiogenesis is the next step in that process.
Can I ask something from the caller? So this is actually very simple. None of us here, I'm assuming, are experts in this field. So as non-experts, this is very easy for us to evaluate. When you're not an expert, you use Occam's razor, right? If 99.9% of the experts in a field, again, remember the fallacy is appeal to false authority, not appeal to authority. Like Justin was saying, if we can appeal to authority when we are not experts ourselves, we just use Occam's razor. We say which one is the most likely scenario. If the vast majority of experts say that one theory is the most likely explanation, even if you find some examples of actual experts that disagree with the majority, your expert, apparently based on SR's research, was not really an expert. But even if they were an expert, what would I do as a non-expert? Even if that one expert or 1% of experts are right and the 99% are wrong, I, as a non-expert, I'm justified to believe what the vast majority of experts are saying, until evidence shows something else. The most justified position for me to have right now is to accept the position of the vast majority of the experts. Your anecdotal evidence does not change that, does not change that calculation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I still kind of think a little bit that this is sort of a appeal to authority, because you still haven't given me like why do you think I'm wrong?
Wait, but so we haven't gotten yet to anything like specific about a claim yet, Caleb. So like the why do you think I'm wrong thing comes in down the road. We're just setting this up to begin with. And the first thing that happened is you called and said, and I know our wonderful call screeners, so I'm sure this is accurate. You said, "Hey, I don't think abiogenesis is possible." And they were like, "Okay, is that what you want to talk about?" And you were like, "Yeah, totally." And we brought you on for that. And the first thing that happened was you set up it's either this or that. And we said, "Well, hang on a second. We need to fix that a little." And you said, "Okay, yeah, that's fair." And we moved on. And that next step was you just saying, "Hey, let me start bringing up some information as to why I don't think it's possible." And all we've done so far is just say, like, the very first person that you mentioned is well known in this space as being considered not a reliable source of information. You give me the claim, man. If your claim is just, "Hey, I don't think abiogenesis is possible," like, cool story, man. Like, awesome. Go keep saying that, I guess. I don't know what to tell you there, because none of us are biologists or anything, but the evidence, in my opinion, is overwhelmingly in support that, again, like Justin has said, man, maybe we don't have it 100% correct, but it is possible. We have shown that this pathway in some form or fashion works. So like if you're going to say, for instance, there's this one guy, James Tor. He says there is a specific protein that is the problem. There's an enzyme that you just can't get. You just can't do it without God. If that's the route you want to go, like, yeah, cool, we'll talk about that. Like we can go down that route. But so far, all we've got is just, hey, I don't think it's possible. And if we just stop right there, Caleb, that's just the fallacy of incredulity, right? It's just me saying, man, I can't think of how it could work like that. And so I guess it just doesn't. But that's not a good reason to believe that.
Also, when you said we appeal to authority, again, that's not, as I mentioned, that's not a fallacy. Appeal to false authority is a fallacy. Right. As non-experts, we have to appeal to fallacy unless we all go here and set up our own labs and do the experiments from scratch. We have no choice but to appeal to authority.
I don't know, Armin. I think we should tell everybody to set up their own biology labs in their houses and start doing experiments on their own. I think that's the world we should live in. No, I'm kidding. I'm teasing.
But Caleb, to the point that we've kind of already mentioned, and I want to be as charitable to you as possible. Even if, let's just imagine that the current theory of abiogenesis doesn't seem to be plausible, still doesn't mean that your God did it. Like, you would still need to demonstrate that your God was the thing that caused life to come into being, because it might be that there is some sort of metaphysical necessity, and that metaphysical necessity that caused life was still a naturalistic cause. We would still need the evidence that it was a God as opposed to a different naturalistic phenomenon. So like, we can even just grant you right now, cool. Okay. We don't know if abiogenesis is true. What's the next step in the argument? How do you get to your God doing it?
Yeah. Good point, Justin.
Okay. So the way I specifically get to the Christian God is based off of different pieces of evidence, which have to do with like text and stuff like that, which is irrelevant to like this specific conversation, which is why
it's very relevant
at this point in the argument. I'm saying I use points like an intelligent cause. Like, before we can start moving on to the Christian God, first, how do we even know if there is an intelligent cause source?
Right. So I understand that mode of operation in this space. And this is a fairly standard way to have this conversation. You can go see quite a lot of people doing this for a really, really long time. And it makes sense to me, and I think it makes sense to most people, because it feels like we're building to something. We're going from the general to the specific, right? Because once we can get to the stage of just agreeing that there's an intelligent cause, then we can say, hey, it's my intelligent. I understand that, right, Caleb? Here's my problem with it. In these examples, I feel like it is very obvious that the individual that is going through that process has already brought in assumptions from their specific God. And so unless we do have the understanding of your particular version, the attributes that apply exclusively to what your intelligent cause is, we're going to struggle, because there are aspects of this that you're bringing in. Because, you know, a lot of people will say, like the Kalam, they'll say, well, it's got to be timeless, it's got to be shapeless, it's got to be. No, it doesn't. That is Craig bringing in this understanding that he already has of his God. And that's how he gets to those conclusions. There are a bunch of versions of God that don't have anything to do with that. And there could be a bunch of versions of the start of the universe that don't have those attributes either, right? But yeah, I think it is really important at the end of the day, because you don't just believe in, you know, a shapeless, formless, intelligent cause, in air quotes. You believe in a specific God.
But let's make it easy for him. Let's go with Justin's question and just remove all that. Let's just assume that, you know, your first, you know, claim is correct, and it's not possible. Give us a God from that claim, answer Justin's question, and it doesn't have to be the Christian God. It just has to be a self-aware entity that created the universe, that has some form of intelligence. We made your job very easy. We assumed your first claim, and we don't need you to get us to the Abrahamic God. Let's see if you can get us there.
But I would ask one question about this God, even though it's a nondescript God. Is it your belief that the God created literally everything other than himself, or did anything else pre-exist, like time or space?
Good question.
Okay, well, so about this, it's impossible for us to, it would be impossible for us to understand everything about the being that would have literally, if it's according to the Bible, but I probably shouldn't say that. But sorry, I kind of lost what I was saying here. It's impossible for us to know everything about God, is what I would be trying to say. So, I mean,
wait, can you get to answering the question? Like, I think like we're getting off.
Did your God also create time and space, or did he just create like the stuff that you and I see?
Well, I mean, I think that it will create it all. And you mentioned Dr. Craig, and so I actually like some of the stuff that he says.
All right, but that's a tangent. We don't need meta commentary on William Lane Craig. He's a fantastic human being, but he's not relevant to the discussion, right? Yeah. So to me, like, even if you go to the most basic attributes of the God that you believe in, it tends to fall apart, right? Because we have this entity that exists outside of space and time, but he can't exist anywhere because there's no space for him. He can't exist for any amount of time because there's no time for him to exist. And he also can't act. The idea that something is existing atemporally, but they can't actually do anything is a bit of a problem, because time is the ability to sequence events, which means your God can't create, he can't think, he can't even think to himself and have a thought, because that's a sequence of events. You can't have sequencings of events outside of time. So even the most baseless attribute, which is that there was once only God and then God created everything else, it's kind of a nonsensical claim, because like, to think that God created something, the act of creation requires time to already exist. So it's just a non-starter. At some point, you have to come to the drawing board and say, okay, well, something must have existed alongside of God, and it appears to be space-time. But that concession is going to lead to other concessions, which I can nearly guarantee. Do you understand how it's literally impossible for something to exist without time?
Well, I've heard some people, like, for example, there's this one guy, his name is Greg Kokel. He actually has a call-in show, sort of the opposite of this, like a Christian one. And he was talking about how he thinks that God is within some sort of time frame, like, or whatever.
Yes.
But
He must be, yeah.
wanted to talk a little bit more about abiogenesis. Can I say something else about abiogenesis?
But we could just grant you that abiogenesis is a flawed theory. Cool. Let's talk about your God, because abiogenesis could be wrong. It still doesn't mean that your God exists.
Does that make sense, Caleb? I want to stick on that for just a second, because I think that is a really, really important point. And I want to make sure that we're all four on the same page with what Justin just said. Can you say that again, Justin? And then Caleb, I want to hear your response.
Yeah, abiogenesis. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, bud.
No, you go ahead. And I just want to say, pay attention to what Justin is saying and see if you could actually answer the question instead of going into another direction or explaining another person or talking about the attributes of your God. So pay very close attention to what Justin is saying and see if you could actually directly answer the question. But go on, Justin. Sorry.
So let's grant you right now that we have no way to conclude whether or not abiogenesis is a viable theory. Let's just take it off the table and say, you know what, we'll grant you that maybe it's not workable. Cool. But what is the evidence that would put your God as the source now? Because it could be a different naturalistic cause. So in order to make a claim that something was in fact the cause, we would need a pattern of evidence that would lead us to that conclusion.
Do you guys remember what I was saying earlier? I said it's an intelligent cause is where the argument starts right now. And I would like to talk about the information and how I think that does point to an intelligent cause. I didn't call to talk about what God this is. I called to talk about different, and like I know we already settled and mentioned abiogenesis, but I wanted to talk about different things like the information within DNA, which I think helps point us to some sort
Okay,
of.
well, show us how the information within the DNA shows that there's some intelligence and that it requires an intelligence as the cause. Yeah. Are you going to show us that, or are you going to basically keep telling us that what you're talking about? Like, show us the evidence that the information within the DNA requires an intelligence behind it for it to exist. Show us that.
Let's do that, Caleb. Okay.
So,
and we can give you a minute if you want.
Okay.
We'll give you a full minute, and you can lay it all out to us. When the minute's up, we'll unabashedly come in and interrupt. But you got 60 seconds.
Okay. So an important component of life is information. And so DNA, the RNA and all this, it's been compared to many times to a code, a digital code. And so it's not literally a code in itself, but it's information about, like, even the simplest of organisms have tons of this information in it. And where does information come from? It comes from like a book that has a bunch of information in it, and it's specified. Specified complexity is the word for that information that is in there. Meaning not only is it complex, but it also conveys sort of like a message. Like there's been I think it was a 4-letter code. I can't remember what the letters were. I think it was like A, T, something or other. That's
awesome. We're right at a minute, and that's awesome, Caleb. Because honestly, that was going to be my first question, and I'm going to throw it to Armin here in just a second. Do you know what the 4 coding bases are for DNA in humans? You were about to mention them, I think. Do you know the letters for them, real quick?
Was it A, T? I can't remember the letters.
A, T, C, and G. That's really good. That's really good. And then here's a really, really cool fact, and I'll ask a question. And just no worries if you don't know. Not a big deal. Again, none of us are biologists. I just want to know this. But really cool fact is they actually only pair up to the exact same one every time. Like they don't just flip around, right? There's a certain pairing that one of them always goes towards the other one, you know? And so that's like why we know if we just have one half of the strand, we can actually figure out the other half because it has to be paired to this other one. Do you know why they do that? Do you know what the reason is that they pair like that and they only pair up with the other one?
Not necessarily. No.
Okay, cool. No worries. I'm sure we'll touch on it in a little bit. But I just think that's really, really interesting, man. Go ahead, Armin. What you got?
No, I just want to ask, call up a question. Do you actually think that the things that you just said was providing evidence? So you said that there is things that could be described as information in nature, and when people call it code, basically they're saying it that there are things that are like code because they're information in nature. Okay, I will give you that. There are things in nature that you could describe as information. And then you said, given that this is information, it requires intelligence. Do you think that you provided evidence, or did you just repeat the claim, and repeating the claim sounded like providing evidence to you? Which one do you think, which one of these scenarios do you think is true? Was that actual evidence?
I mean, I think so. I think that points towards intelligent calls, because where does information come from?
Well, that's what your claim is. You're claiming that information always requires intelligence behind it. You're assuming that. You haven't demonstrated that. We're asking for a demonstration of that necessity.
Right. And I think one of the other problems we have here is defining what you mean by information, because so I'm a programmer myself. My day job is as an electrical engineer, but I spend most of my time programming software. And so the fact that something is necessarily complicated doesn't mean that it qualifies as information, right? So we've got very complex non-living molecules out in the world, and we wouldn't call that information. You're really only calling the DNA information because it's part of our living biology. But like, you wouldn't call, the crystalline process of a bismuth crystal, you wouldn't say that that is information. But under the definition that you're providing, the crystalline structure that is necessary for forming bismuth crystals is technically information. It's a particular sequence of molecules. And if you don't have that sequencing of molecules, you don't have bismuth.
I mean, based on their definition of information, I'm okay calling it. They call any type of pattern by that definition of information. Any pattern could be described as, I could randomly put three rocks in the ground. I'm like, well, this is an information, and if I move it, it's a different information. Anything in any sort of pattern in nature could be described as information or data. But I think what you're saying, Caleb, is because we have this is what you're thinking, because this resembles code, and our experience is that there's a coder behind a code. Therefore, if there's something in nature that resembles a code, there needs to be an intelligent coder behind it. That seems to be your argument. You're basically generalizing your experience. You see the human experience, and you see things in nature that resembles things that we have created. This is basically the watch argument. We look at a watch, you're like, oh, this seems to be organized and complex. Oh, who created the watch? Humans. Okay, this tree is complex. Oh, if we created the watch, then somebody must have created this tree. And you're doing the same thing with the DNA. You're looking at the DNA like, oh, this looks like code to me. Well, we have codes in our experiences. Who's behind the code? There's humans behind the code. Okay, therefore the code behind the DNA, there must be an intelligence. Do you understand how wrong this is, and how basic this is, and how you're just generalizing your own personal human experience to everything in nature?
Well, it's not just that it's complex. Like, if you blop a bunch of ink on a piece of paper, it's going to be a very complex design. It would be hard to replicate. But if you saw in the ink that something had been wrote in it, then you would assume intelligence, because that's specified complexity, it's called.
Why are you assuming intelligence? You keep saying that without showing any evidence. You're assuming intelligence. I'm not assuming intelligence. You're doing that. Why are you acting like the rest of us are doing it? Why are you assuming intelligence whenever you see something that is complex?
I'm assuming, and no, it's not just that it's complex. I just said this. It's not that it's
Whatever it is.
It's specified, and that's all. That there's a huge
whatever. Why would that mean intelligence? You know you're just describing things without getting to the why. Well, you're not answering the why.
Well, information comes from a mind.
How?
Why?
That's
yes.
why?
Let's stick to that, Caleb. Okay. You know what? I'm on board with you, Caleb. Information comes from a mind, but I'm kind of an idiot, Caleb, and I don't exactly understand how. Help me.
And the inference is not there. You're saying that because we witness information being created by a mind, we can infer that the DNA, if it is information, was made by a mind. But this is an inference from things that we know. But we can make the same inference against your God. We can say, well, we know that all minds are contingent on a brain. And so by inference, God must have a physical matter brain, but you would reject that. So like we would reject your inference on the same reason why you would reject our inference about God's brain being the mind that causes the information.
Okay.
So like this disembodied floating mind that's just out in the ether is a nonsensical idea to begin with, because you're suggesting that there must be a mind that created this, because we know that information comes from minds. But when we examine the nature of God's mind, it's completely unfeasible. It's not a realistic idea of what a mind actually is. So the analogy kind of falls apart. But it's also true that if God is a programmer, he's like
a transcendent being.
Right, but you have no evidence that transcendent anything exists. There's no proof that there's any such thing as transcendentals. Right. You're assuming that they exist.
You're adding extra things on, Caleb.
If God does exist and he's a programmer, then he's not a good programmer. The DNA code is suspect. It has like a huge amount of unvaluable coding that just gets passed down. It's easily damaged. That's why we've got so many retroviruses in our genome. And then we pass the damage on down the line. So like if we have an all-knowing creator, I would expect that he would have the DNA code in a way that it could actually self-clean. It can self-regulate when things come in, but it doesn't. It actually takes in all the damage and passes it forward.
Yeah. Caleb, I know we've shouted a lot at you, man, and I'm sure you've got a lot of responses too. But we've been going for quite a while, which I do appreciate you. You know, I feel like go ahead real quick.
One sentence, Caleb. Can you just? I know you must be familiar with appeal to ignorance. You're saying because I cannot think of a way that information comes from anything other than intelligence, then it must be intelligence. This is a standard example of appeal to ignorance. You're failing to see how could the patterns that you're seeing is coming from anything other than intelligence, so it must be from intelligence. That's what you're doing. But go on, sorry.
Yeah. No. I appreciate that.
Can I ask Caleb a question?
Yeah, go ahead. Then we'll wrap up.
Caleb, you've called in to Atheist Experience and The Line and a few other shows before, haven't you? Because I've heard you give...
Not The Line.
I've heard you give this actual talking point at least more than once before. And it didn't land when I saw you give it prior. So I guess I'm trying to figure out why you're here now. You're back at the well thinking the same argument is going to land somewhere else when it doesn't land elsewhere. Like, yeah. Do you understand how going back to the same broken argument is not a good tactic for winning hearts and minds to your theistic point of view?
Yeah. And I know.
I would blame it.
Go ahead. Finish up.
I was saying, I think it's me. I think I would blame it on myself.
Fair enough.
Haven't done.
Yeah, I don't think so, Caleb, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work when other people try it either. From what I've seen, I think it's just not a strong argument, man. But I know we shouted a lot at you during this whole thing. I'm going to tell you to do something, Caleb. And I mean, you can just go tell me to, fuck myself, of course, right? But I think this is an incredibly important practice that we should all get in the habit of doing. Go back and watch this after the fact. Give it a day or two, man. Put it down. Don't think about it. Go hang out outside or whatever. Screw around. Buy presents for whatever. It doesn't matter. But then come back and rewatch this and listen to our responses and your responses and where we take the conversation and stuff. And then give us a call back, man, because we always appreciate good conversation like it. But I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much, Caleb. We do appreciate you. And we got other really good calls too, and we are gonna get to every single one of y'all, so y'all just hang on the line. And we've even got some more space, so maybe Justin said something that was really dumb, you guys, and you need to call him out and hold him account. That couldn't be possible for me or Armin. So, if Justin messed up and you want to correct him, call him.
I can't wait. I'd love to hear it.
That's right. I love it. We've got a couple of quick announcements for you and some super chats I'm going to read for you. So, as many of you know, we have initiated phase 2 of our very awesome brick fundraiser, and we are highlighting a brick like every single week because there are some really awesome standout orders we have received. So this week's featured brick goes to Sam from Oregon, who says, I bought a Gap, especially for Gap, your God. You're welcome. Thank you so much, Sam. That is awesome. I freaking love that one. And I cannot wait until the next time I am down there at the Free Thought Library to see that in person. You can get yours at tiny.cc/ACA bricks. And maybe we will read yours on the show. Also, for the month of December, we are re-releasing past limited edition t-shirts. Get all of your awesome ACA merchandise at tiny.cc/merchaca. And speaking of t-shirts, just as a reminder, if you send a $10 or more super chat, I will put on more shirts, help keep SR clothed, and it looks like I've got a couple of shirts to put on. But first, we've got $1.99 super chat from Ramen Nakota saying, big fan of Armin with some hearts. He doesn't need an ego boost. Yeah, take that off screen.
No, I do. Thank you.
No, it's great. I always love hanging out with you. We've got $10 from some kind of Dickie saying, S. Armin, 2 great tastes that taste great together. That is a little uncomfortable, but I love you still. No, it's it's probably true. It's probably true. But that means I got to put a t-shirt on. So I'm going to do all of that when we grab our next call, because we've got another $10 from Frankenstein, been a member for 6 months, saying the unholy trinity of you 3 up there brings me hope. Yes, I am having a good time. And we haven't even gotten into all of the best calls yet, I think. So, and that's another t-shirt for me.
So we're up to the first caller?
No, it wasn't. No, you know what? No, that's fair, Armin. No, I'm sorry. That sounded a bit meaner than what I meant it. Yeah, no, Caleb, you're great. I didn't mean to say it like I just think there are some other really good topics. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, that was, yeah. $50.
Caleb, you were great, but we have better callers.
Yeah. Suck it, Caleb. $50 from Maximilian saying, hail to the Justin. So glad you are on AXP. Hell of a show with fantastic people. Love yours too. Keep up the good work, all of you. Yes, we are so happy that he is hanging out with us today. And we've got one more super chat, $1.99 from Mark Luster saying, love to see Justin on AXP. Thoughts on Deuteronomy 23:15?
Yeah, I can give an explanation.
Wait, can I agree with this? Like, it's really, Justin, you're amazing. I'm so happy that you're here. Like, your arguments are fantastic. I was noticing myself nodding and saluting you multiple times.
You're actually contractually obligated to agree with this, so you couldn't say otherwise, right?
I really appreciate the kind words. I feel like I've got a little bit of imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm the one here that I'm looking up to both of you. You know what I mean? I don't mind addressing Deuteronomy 23:15 though, Mac Luster. It's a common apologetic from the slave apologists. The suggestion is that because Deuteronomy 23:15 talks something about runaway slaves, that somehow it negates all of the slave laws of the Bible, but that's not really what it says. The Hebrew seems to be pretty clear here. It says, you shall not turn over to the master a slave who has been delivered to you from his master. And my interpretation of this passage agrees with the Jewish rabbis in the Talmudic writings. The phrase Asher Yinatzel in Hebrew literally means somebody who has been delivered, right? Somebody who has been handed over by his master. So what this is actually referring to is not about a runaway slave. It could be referring to a runaway slave, but it seems to be referring to a slave that's being emancipated, which is what you find in most of the Hebrew exegesis from the actual rabbis. So, for example, in Kiddushin 63a, it quite literally says, this verse is speaking of one who is acquired not to be a slave, but to be emancipated from slavery. The next passage, verse 16, seems to indicate that the slave being emancipated was a foreign slave, because foreign slaves are typically permanent slaves. It says, such individuals shall live with you in any place that they may choose, among your settlements, in your midst, wherever they please. You must not ill-treat them. So when we combine these two verses together, it's pretty clear that what's happening here is this is a slave that's being purchased for emancipation from a foreign country. This is nothing about runaway slaves. In fact, there's two other episodes in the Bible that addresses runaway slaves and the Israelites actually going to capture the slaves. So we find a very poignant episode in the book of Samuel where a runaway slave has escaped down to the Philistine territory. And then the slave owner, I think it might be Shimei, if I remember correctly, he goes to retrieve his slave because the people down there said, hey, your slaves are down here, and he goes to retrieve them. And of course, he left his territory, which he had a prior agreement with the king that he wouldn't leave his territory, and then he got punished for leaving his territory. But the point being is the Israelites would capture their slaves if they ran away. This is not a good apologetic to say that somehow Deuteronomy 23:15 is negating the slavery that is permitted by the Bible according to Exodus 21 and Leviticus 25.
I
have to come back and listen to this because SR was distracting me. I missed most of that. So.
I only heard like the last minute of that, but I'm sure it was great. So now I've got, I don't know, 5 shirts on because the one I might have to take my pants off before this is over. It's already getting hot. Anyway, we are going to grab the next caller. We're going out into the UK. We've got Christian, he, him, is atheist, says that Jesus's teachings about divorce and marriage are the solution to abortion. Well, hey, Christian, you are on the show with Armin, Justin, and SR. What is up?
Hello, just making sure you can hear me.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Yep. Okay, great stuff. Yeah, so I just wanted to make a quick comment about the last caller. Just wanted to say that...
No, not the last caller. Can you do the question, okay. The thing that you told?
I just wanted to make...
Focus on what you said.
Just wanted to make a quick comment.
No. Do that after. Do that. Start with what you said you're going to call about, and then maybe if we have time, we'll go to that. But go.
Hey, so my point is, right, is that I think that if we all followed the Christian teachings, Jesus' teachings on marriage,
okay,
and pretty much how the covenant of what is taught about marriage, or I believe that would kind of solve. It wouldn't negate the need for abortion.
How?
But that can't be true.
Solve
because
abortion. Why does that even need to be solved?
Yeah.
As if something bad has happened. Yeah.
Well, why would we need to have abortions? I mean, that's a huge emotional impact on the woman and the man.
We need to have it because it's a medical procedure in case there's problems during pregnancy.
So.
Right. I mean, your base assumption is that abortion is bad, and the words of Jesus would fix it, but that can't be true because Jesus said to follow the laws of Moses. In Matthew chapter 5, 17 through 19, he specifically states that whoever teaches others to not follow the law will be called least in the kingdom of heaven, and whoever teaches them and does them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. And in the law of Moses, what we find in Numbers chapter 5 is that if your wife is unfaithful to you, she drinks the bitter waters, the potion of cursing, and she will in fact have an abortion if it turns out that it was true. But like,
is it forced abortion?
Basically, it's a God abortion. God is aborting the baby.
That's actually problematic abortion. Okay,
right? That is actually, right.
That is bad abortion. Forced abortion is bad abortion. Okay, yeah.
But children, according to the biblical narrative, are always under the authority of their parents. Deuteronomy chapter 21 says you can stone your rebellious son if he is too rebellious. Exodus 31 says if you curse your father or mother, that you can stone them. It also says in verse 17 or 15 that if you strike your father or mother, then you get stoned. And Jesus advocated for this. In Mark chapter 7, Jesus quite literally said he chastised the Pharisees for creating an oral law around the Mosaic law that prevented them from executing the sons that were dishonoring their parents. So even Jesus was okay with executing rebellious sons. And these are not infants. These are actually full-grown children, probably even teenagers. So I don't see anything in the Bible that would be against abortion.
And Justin, what does the Bible say about divorce?
So it says two things in divorce. In Deuteronomy 24, it says that if a man divorces his wife and she goes and finds another husband, that she's not permitted to go back and marry her first husband if that doesn't work out, because then she's defiling her prior marriage. So once a woman becomes defiled, it's that according to the biblical language, she's not supposed to go back to her first husband, which is wild because technically the second husband is receiving a defiled woman, but they kind of bypass that. So that's the only law about divorce in the Old Testament, which is barbaric. Jesus said in Matthew and elsewhere that Moses permitted you to divorce, but it was not his will to allow it. In fact, God hates divorce, according to the prophet Malachi. And so Jesus is saying that I don't permit you to divorce unless in the case of infidelity.
Because in some Christian countries, because of the Bible, they have made divorce illegal. And because of this, a lot of women are stuck with their abusers. And it's a very tragic situation. This specific teaching in the Bible has cursed a lot of women's lives forever. It's really horrific.
It actually leads to more abortions, by the way. Forcing women to stay with their abusive husbands leads to more abortions, not less.
Okay. I just wanted to ask a simple question, really. If we could avoid abortion, would that be a good thing?
No.
If it didn't have to happen in the first place, would it be a good thing?
Yeah. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. But then we would be living in a completely different world than the one that we live in. If liver transplants didn't have to happen, would that be a better world? Fuck yeah, Christian. I mean, if cancer treatments didn't have to happen, would that be a better world? Hell yeah. Did you know there are specific surgeries and practices designed for children, for babies that are under a few months old? The only time we ever bring out these medical tools is when a barely alive infant, innocent as all hell, is about to die on the table in front of us. That's fucking horrible. I'm right with you, bro. If the world wasn't such where these terrible things happened and these medical procedures weren't necessary, yeah, that'd be better, man. But the problem is that we live in a world where these things do happen really regularly. Last time I was on here, I was yelling and screaming about the mortality rate of individuals giving birth in the United States. And you're lucky, man. You're lucky. You're in the UK right now. Anybody that you know that gets pregnant or is giving birth has a higher likelihood of surviving than they do in my country. That's psychotic to me that that's the world we live in. But in part, the reason that we live in that world is because this very necessary medical procedure very necessary medical procedure is being restricted by individuals that have absolutely no understanding about it. And they are completely making this world a hellhole for individuals for honestly no good reason. Because when you look at the only possible explanation for why to be against legal and safe and rare abortions, it's religious. Problem is, not a single one of these religions have a leg to stand on. Just like Justin was saying, there is more reason to believe that Judaism and Christianity support abortion than be against it. What do you think, man?
What's the big deal with abortion? Like, shouldn't we be focusing on reducing the cost of abortion? Like, what is this such a big deal? Like, the main cost of abortion is either medical complications, so with the modernization and better medicine and science, that could reduce the cost of abortion physically. And the main emotional cost of abortion is religious people making it a taboo thing. So if we could make it a non-taboo thing, emotionally, it would be less costly. So I'd rather focus on making abortion less of a deal, both medically and emotionally, rather than making it not necessary. I'd rather making it something very mundane and not that big of a deal. Like, why are you so focused on removing abortion? I don't think that's an issue.
Oh, I just want to say that regardless of whether it's religious or not, I think a woman, and I would say a man as well, go through a great deal of emotional pain. I think whether or not that.
Oh, my mom had tons of abortion, and she didn't think she didn't think much about it. She had abortions before me, and I asked her if they were a big deal. I mean, except the first one was a big deal because she was in Iran and it was illegal, and she couldn't find a doctor to do it at that time. And she had to do it herself with a coat hanger, and she almost died because of it. So that one was a big deal. But the rest of them, she was in the UK and Germany when she did those, she didn't think anything about it. They were not a big deal at all. So only the one that she did when in a country which saw abortion as a taboo, that was the only one that was a big deal to her. The rest of them were not an issue at all.
Okay, I mean, maybe we take different perspectives on this, but I just think any life that's going to be born or has the potential to be born has a right to live. But I understand the whole point about conversations, but I want to focus on Jesus.
But what if we granted you that? What if we granted you the argument that, let's say, for example, we agree with you. Let's say, yes, life begins at conception, and the best possible world is where all of those lives make it to birth and have a thriving childhood and adulthood. Cool, all right? But the Bible doesn't fix the problem of abortion. You still have to find a reason why the Bible can solve it, because the biblical text is pretty clear. Like, God is executing children all the time. He does so in 2 Kings chapter 2 when a group of them chastise the prophet Elijah, and then they get torn apart to shreds by 2 she-bears that come out of the woods. He does so to the Egyptian firstborn, having done nothing wrong. He does again in 1 Samuel 15:3 when he sicks the army of Saul upon the Amalekites. God has no problem with wiping out infants, whether they're in the womb or not. In fact, when in Leviticus 26, Jeremiah 19, and elsewhere, it literally says, if you do not follow these laws, if you do not obey my covenant, I will make the war on you so great that the children are ripped from your wombs and that you eat your own flesh to survive. And then that happens. It's quoted in the book of Lamentations that Jeremiah writes. So God quite literally is okay with children being executed, whether they're in the womb or outside of the womb, even in the most grisly of cases.
I completely understand your point about the Old Testament and stuff like that, but I just wanted to focus specifically on Jesus' teachings. Now,
but is Jesus God?
I haven't made my point. Hold on. So let me just make my point, right?
Wait. Real quick. Hang on, Christian. Hang on. This is our show. You called us, right? You came in and you made a claim. You said, hey, look, I think if we focus on Jesus's teaching, I think that solves the issue for abortion. Now, we had a little pushback. We said, hey, we don't really think abortion is an issue the same way you're saying it. But then Justin just laid out a lot of really good reasons, in my opinion, as to why the Bible, what you said was going to fix this problem of abortion, why it doesn't actually do that. And you just said, hey, nah, I don't want to focus on that stuff. I just want to go on and talk about some other things real quick. But what Justin was saying applies to the New Testament just as much as the Old Testament. If Jesus is God, right? And if Jesus was fulfilling Jewish law from the Old Testament. Like, this is important, okay? You can't just skip past that and say, well, there's some other nice things in the New Testament that I like more, so I'm going to focus on those. So how do you deal with this kind of tension here where you're saying, look, man, I read the Bible in the New Testament and it says no abortion, but Justin brought up all of these instances where God seems to be really cool with killing kids. Like, how do you deal with that?
Okay, I just wanted to make my point first, right? So
he's not going to deal with it.
Answer and Sar's questions for Sar asked the question. Answer
do
that
you
first.
believe that what you just said, Christian, was in any way, shape, or form the way an adult should respond in a conversation? Like, do you feel like if you sat down with your boss or a family member and that back and forth just happened, that they would just continue talking with you like everything was normal?
Okay, you fired so many questions at me at so many points.
So I can do it again if you need me to. I'm happy to do that, man. But don't just fucking waste my time and pretend that I didn't fucking say anything. Like, Justin, Armin, they're busy. I'm not. I ain't doing shit with myself, okay? Fine, man. Waste my time all the fuck you want then. But Jesus Christ, dude. Like, it is fascinating to me that you would give a response like that. Let's try it again, okay? I'm gonna start over. I'm gonna make it real short, real quick, okay? Are you following along, Christian? Can we start over together?
Okay, first and foremost.
Awesome. So hang on, because you said yes, so we're gonna do the start over. So here it is. Ready? Real quick. You came in and said that there are teachings of Jesus in the New Testament that get rid of the need for the problem of abortion, as you titled it. Justin brought up a lot of points that seem to indicate that both the Old and New Testament are not in your favor there. How do you square that, Christian?
Okay, so let me make my point. I have not even had a chance to finish my point. So,
can you guys hear him?
He went quiet for a second, but
he did go quiet because I have the fucking mute button, Christian. What a weird asshole that would come in here and just disregard 3 times in a row just a normal conversation. You will absolutely be allowed to make your point. Dude, we talked with Caleb for 30 minutes. We gave him a full uninterrupted a minute. You couldn't sit here for 30 seconds on hold, and you ran away like a child. Grow up, hit us back whenever you're ready. What do you got, Justin? What were you going to say to all that stuff?
Well, I wanted to end on a really good analogy because he believes that Jesus is God, which means, and Jesus is always in accordance with God, which means he had to agree with everything God did, or else he would not be part of the Trinity. But if that's the case, that means you're just saying that, well, he was mean back then, but he's better now. But that can easily be solved. I would just tell you, like, okay, if your sister brought somebody home for you to meet, a new boyfriend or something, and she's like, listen, he's really great. He treats me great. I just need to warn you that, before we met, he did beat up his previous girlfriends and he was incarcerated for murder. Oh, God. But I promise he's better now. You're not going to want her to date that guy. Yeah. But your God is the bad boyfriend. That's who you're bringing home to dinner.
Yeah, totally. Armin, you have to look.
Can I just say the reason why I was focusing you guys Justin is, with his incredible Bible knowledge, is focusing on why the Bible is not saying what Christian was saying it was. But the reason why I was so sensitive about the abortion part, like why he's acting like this is a problem to solve, is because this attitude basically was partly the reason why my mom almost died. Like this whole tabooing this is actually very dangerous, making this a taboo thing as if it's a problem that needs to be solved. Like I was gonna tell him the rest of the story, but I think it was too long. But the short version is that she went from doctor to doctor and they refused to do this for her. But the last doctor showed pity on her because she was crying and begging. And then the doctor told her what to do at home with a coat hanger. And when she did it, and she saw the fetus going in circles down the toilet, and that traumatized her. She was a young girl that didn't know what the hell is happening to her, and she knew that this is not right for her. And then she was bleeding everywhere, and she passed out from bleeding. And she fell on the bed, and her entire mattress was soaked in blood. And if her friends didn't come into the room, the cleaning lady, not her friend, sorry. If the cleaning lady didn't come to her room, just a little bit, as soon as she did, she would have died. And this is years before she had me. Like, she would have easily died. And this all comes from, an attitude towards making abortion seem like it's doing something evil. This is a very dangerous mindset to have. So,
yeah, totally agree, and I appreciate both of you guys giving your thoughts on that. And I just want to say, I don't even know if you're still listening or not, Christian, but to be honest, I'm just saying this out there for anybody. Like, go back and watch that. And watch the way that he refuses to engage in a conversation. And then just ask yourself if you feel like that is a reasonable way to have a conversation with people about anything. And I'm asking that of everybody, whether you're a theist or an atheist. I don't give a shit. But let's have conversation that actually respond to each other. Hey man, look, no, but let me give you some points as to why I think that way. It's like, okay, let me hear. Don't just ignore the last 5 full minutes that somebody laid out for you and just go, so let me give you my point. No, answer the fucking question, address the fucking point, and then you'll have some time to go forward. Like, again, there is so much evidence of all three of us doing that. We will give you time. 30 minutes with Caleb, 30 fucking minutes, you guys. So anyway, now that that's all been yelled, let me say that we have a channel that houses all of the shows of the ACA in audio podcast form. You can find them at tiny.cc/AEN podcast, and you can listen to all the latest shows from the Atheist Experience, Talk Heathen, Truth Wanted, the Nonprofits, and others on one great channel. You don't have to go to a bunch of places. You don't have to work very hard, because I know you lazy mother. Anyway, speaking of which, not having to work too hard. Go ahead and subscribe. If you haven't done that, there might be something wrong with you. You might want to address. I don't know. Some people are talking. I'm just asking questions. But yeah, subscribe. It's very easy. We make it very easy for you. And apparently, I have some other work to do here because we have some super chats I got to read. So we got another one from Ramen Nakota sending $9.99 saying, I like Justin, but I like Armin more. Just kidding. Y'all great. Well, I just want to tell you this, Ramen, that the challenge that we're doing today is $10 super chats or higher, and you are 1 penny off. So go fuck yourself because you didn't mention. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'll put a shirt on for it, and Justin and Armin are all right, I guess. We've got $1.99 from Free Thinkers saying, W. Justin, praise Doug, the only rock of salvation. That is right.
Yes, amen. Prophesied in the Holy Scriptures, he is the rock of salvation. There's no saving waters outside of the rock that Moses split. His name is Doug.
We have it's funny for an atheist organization, we have quite a lot of made up gods that we all worship. So because we've got Armin's universe farting turtle, we've got Doug the rock of salvation. Like we got
turtles
it all
in the chat. Turtles in the chat. I need to
Flip them. Flip the turtles.
Okay.
Go.
All right, guys. Turtles and rocks, fight it out in the chat. We've got $10 from Mr. saying, yes, Justin, who unfortunately introduced me to Darth Dawkins. Please comment on this freak. Well, I'll say this. We don't like personal attacks. I won't do that. And we don't need to talk about anybody that's not here. I think some people say that he is not pleasant. But you can decide for yourself, I guess. But we are very happy to have Justin here, doing great stuff for sure. And I think that's another fucking shirt for me. We're counting them, I swear, you guys. We got $20 from Tom Schneider saying information evolves by natural selection. No brains involved. Yep. I think that is pretty clear. We've got $10 from Philip Mitchell, been a member for 2 years, saying more. I think that is in reference to t-shirts. I got them all right here. We're getting ready. We are almost there, apparently. And we have $10 from Miranda Rinsberger, member for 6 months, saying spicy SR is the best SR. Well, I appreciate that. You can get me both spicy and regular heat at fine establishments everywhere. And I think that is another one, and we are very close. And finally, 1999 from Godless Doctor saying, thank you, Armin, for being assertive about abortion. Totally freaking agree. And I believe you guys, to my chagrin, but that we have completed our challenge. I have 5 more shirts I gotta put on. Okay, so as I am working on this, wow. I know it is already hot. I am sweating. I may not have pants on. We're just not going to comment on that further. But what we will do is grab a call so that you guys can talk to somebody while I am struggling doing this. So go ahead.
Before you did, I just want to note everyone to notice that you wanted to strip. Mm-hmm. And the crew decided that you have to put more t-shirts on, but eventually you found a way to come up with an excuse you took off your pants. You just really want to be able to find ways to take things off.
Hey man, look, the challenge was put on t-shirts. I am a big fan of malicious compliance. So I have in fact been putting on t-shirts. But before all of you gouge out your eyes and use a bunch of substances to forget today, we are going to go out to Nebraska. We're going to talk with Steve. He, him pronouns is atheist. Wants to talk about some dark energy and stuff. Well, hey, Steve, you are on the Atheist Experience. You're talking with Justin, SR, and Armin Navabi. What is up?
Hey, happy holidays, Elliot, Armin, and Justin. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, so I wanted to discuss recent studies suggesting dark energy is weakening over time, implying a dynamic natural law programmed by a computational universe in contrast with natural constant occurring within base reality. So are you guys familiar with the recent study titled DESI 2024.
So when you say computational, are you talking about us being in a simulation, in a quantum computing universe that we are programmed by some people, that this is not the base universe, there's another base universe?
Of course,
is that what you're saying?
I'm a simulationist. So the answer, I'm a simulationist. The answer to your question is yes. So have you guys? Okay,
so you're saying the fact that there's studies that seems to suggest that dark energy is weakening, that suggests that we're in a simulation, and this is not base reality. Is that what you're suggesting?
If a natural force is dynamic and is being tweaked by a cosmic programmer, that's testable. And I'll tell you guys.
How do you know it's being tweaked?
Tweaked. The word tweak is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. You already assumed. You just somehow managed to smuggle in intelligence, intentions, awareness by the word. The studies that you're suggesting that are real, that the dark energy is weakening, shows something is changing. Something changing does not necessarily mean. See, Justin noticed the word tweak there. Why tweak? Why not? Why did you shift from changing to tweaking? Just because something is changing in our universe, it doesn't mean that somebody's tweaking it. Go ahead, Justin.
To be sure, if something is changing, all you're saying is that it's just not a fundamental constant. But the majority of the universe is not a fundamental constant. That doesn't mean that a designer is changing it.
But if a physical law is changing, that doesn't naturally occur.
Something that people assumed that was constant, now they realize it's not constant. It didn't mean, that's it. That's all that's happening. Yeah. So why do you think that means that somebody's tweaking something?
So let's assume in nature, natural forces just naturally don't change on their own. The laws of physics just don't change on their own.
Why would we assume that?
Assume that, okay?
Well, I just want to make sure we're doing definitions properly. You're assuming that the law of nature that you're appealing to, the law of physics, is in fact a constant. What we're suggesting is that it's actually not a constant. Things that change over time are not constants. So it was once upon a time that it was believed to be a constant. Now we know that it's not a constant. That doesn't mean that a designer is changing it. It just means that our understanding of the dark energy is different now.
Yeah, perfectly explained. Just
so we this is a testable hypothesis. If cosmic programmer is doing this, it is testable. If the mass energy information equivalency principle is correct, and how this can be tested is that they're interactive, stable, fundamental particles of mass containing bits of code simulating the particle's charge, spin, and mass. And if one bit were erased from if one bit of information were erased from an encoded particle, there'd be an equivalent amount of dissipated heat as observed when one bit erased from a computer. The particles having storage capacity, their electrons up, quarks down, quarks parity-based system, info system, 3 equal probable outcomes contain 1.585 bits when adjusting for actual
Steve, you
percentage.
really suck at explaining things. You know that, Steve?
Right. But like you're destroying Occam's razor here. You're suggesting that the best explanation for this is to invent an entire idea that we don't actually exist, that we're in a simulation, rather than just saying, well, it appears that dark energy just isn't a constant. And I think this gives rise to the people who believe in the Big Bang, Big Crunch. It's not that there's a programmer changing something. It's just that our universe has constants and non-constants, and this thing happens to not be a constant. And the dark energy that's pushing everything out will eventually end in everything being drawn right back in. It's a cyclical universe. A cyclical universe, according to Occam's razor, is way more likely than inventing this entire narrative that there's a programmer out there that's put us inside of a simulation. That doesn't follow. And it also falls apart because if we're in a simulation, then the odds that the simulation that we're in is in another simulation is incredibly high. And then you have just an infinite regress of simulations going all the way back until you just run out of infinite processing power.
Are you familiar with Nick Bostrom's argument for simulation?
No. Steve, make your own arguments instead of like name dropping. But were you trying to suggest that because you when instead of addressing what Justin was saying, you basically gave us a lot of words that didn't mean much. But were you trying to suggest, like, I wanted to see what you're getting at? Were you trying to suggest that given that the information about everything, it cannot be increased or changed if we consider everything. You're saying that if this is a closed universe with all the information if our universe is everything and there's nothing behind it, then any missing change of all of the information that makes up this universe would lead into something extremely noticeable, and that's your proof that this is not a closed system. Is that what you're trying to say? And then you're trying to this discovery that the energy of dark matter is changing, you're attributing that to lost information or an increased information. Is that what you're trying to get at? Is that the way that you're trying to connect the dots?
I'll tell you what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is the fundamental matter, the fundamental building block of everything is information bits. And this can be proven if we collide an electron.
Okay, I'm just going to assume you do not need to prove this, okay? So any closed system, all the information in it is constant, given that's the definition of closed, okay? Then what? Fundamental, yeah, sure. We could reduce everything to a specific definition of information. Everything could be reduced to information. You could consider the building blocks of everything to be a certain form of information. Okay, I will give you that. Where are you going to go next?
Okay, thank you for giving me this opportunity. What I'm saying is the fundamental building blocks of the universe is bits, information bits. And this can be proven.
And? No, you don't need to prove it. I gave you that already. And next,
okay, so
next,
we can prove it.
Next, move to the next step. Don't prove it. We already assumed it. Next.
Okay, we assume we can prove this. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm saying you don't need to go walk through proving this. Let's assume that. I want to see how you're going to get to
Steve. He's saying, okay, he's with you. He agrees. Now what?
Okay, you agree. We can test if bits of information is the fundamental building block.
Oh, fuck that.
Oh my God.
Steve, let me ask you a question. Is the fundamental building blocks of the universe bits of information? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Now on to the next bullet point. Now, so what? We all agree on that. So what?
Okay. So if bits, if information is the fundamental building blocks of our universe,
wait, you just did a switcheroo. Just make sure we're aware of this. We were talking about bits. Now you're calling the bits the information. How do you go from bits to information?
It's fine. Let's just
all right, go for it. Sorry.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. But yeah.
Let's just allow it because I want to see how we're going to get to the next step. That's what
I want to know where we go. I want to know where we're going.
Okay. Yeah. Bits, information, they're all the same thing. So let's go. Next step.
Information, our building block of the universe. Cool. All right.
Sure.
Awesome.
God, we're going to stay here forever. I think he didn't assume we're going to give him that, so he doesn't know where to go now.
Yeah. So what's now what? What is that?
So what now?
Where do we go?
Okay, now what? Okay, bits of information is a building block. Where do bits of information come from? Simulation.
This is why I want to give. This is why I wanted to give him this because he assumed that we're just going to stay in proving this point, and he didn't assume that we're going to go to the next step. So now that we see the next step is nothing. Okay.
I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure, Steve. Okay. So we all agree. Bits of information, fundamental, basic building blocks of the universe. We're all there. And then when we say, all right, man, now what? The next thing you said was what? Just a reminder for me, real quick. Make sure I'm on
the simulation.
Therefore, okay. This is my argument. Okay, all building blocks, all the fundamental building blocks in the universe is bits of information. Therefore, we're in a computer simulation.
Okay.
There, I nailed it. What do you think of that?
Do you feel like? And I mean this genuinely, okay? Because I know we were laughing for a second, Steve, but I'm not trying to shit on you or anything. Honestly, do you really believe that the statement, little bits of information are the fundamental building blocks to everything in the universe? Do you really feel that that gives any more indication to the conclusion we're in a simulation versus we're existing in the colon of a turtle that's about to fart out another universe. Do you feel like either of those, you have more weight on your side with that little bits of information thing?
There are other points I could make about simulation.
No, I
theory
totally
being
understand.
true.
And we can go to those other points in just a second, Steve. But like genuinely, I'm curious on this because let me give away my game. Okay. Let me show you my hand. My hand is this. I don't think it does, man. I don't think that statement about little bits of information being the fundamental building blocks for all of existence, I don't think that points to the universe farting turtle more so than the simulation, more so than the nothing at all. You know, I think that piece, that statement right there is on the exact same level for every single one of these conclusions. And if that's the case, it doesn't act in favor of any one of them because they can all be used. They can all use it. Does that make sense? Are you following along with?
Why does the universe conserve computational resources?
Hey, man, we can get to that. That's a phenomenally interesting topic, man. I bet you there is probably some people that have talked about that. But yeah, it's a false dichotomy.
Appeal to ignorance.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for what I just said. What I just said was, it seems to me that that piece of information, that piece of data that we're pointing to, we all agree, little bits of information, fundamental universe, got it, all on the same page. I don't think that points to any one particular conclusion over any other. Do you think that it does, just by itself?
Right. It comes. Information would. Computational conservation would come from intelligence. Would it not?
See, you moved on to something different, Steve. Sure. And I'll give it over to Armin and Justin here, but you moved on to something different.
This is the same as the first call. This is the same as the first call. Hey, look at the DNA. It looks like a code. So it must be a coder. So now this guy, Steve is saying, hey, look, we have information. And information is the building of everything. Oh, so it must be something up there that's doing this. Like, why is your failure of thinking of other answers just means that we all have to accept your answer? This is your failure of imagining other answers. Why would the rest of us have to accept this? Just because you can't think of other answers.
It's the best explanation we have. What other explanations you have?
You're switching the burden of proof. You're claiming that this is the answer. You're saying what? We ask you why. You're like, because I can't think of anything else. Well, that's your failure. Right. We don't have to give you an answer. You are proposing a solution to us. You have to explain why your solution is the right answer.
Right. And it's not the best answer that we have. We have other good answers. We really do. It's just that they don't always hit us as nicely. The concept of a false, vacuum state, quantum scalar, inflation and shit, that just doesn't sound super pretty and sparkly the same way. Magical beings sent their son down to live for you and forgive you of your wrongness. Like, it just doesn't sound as pretty sometimes to people. And I get that, man, but we do have better answers. We do have really good understanding about the origins of our universe. It's not perfect, but the good news is that it is not relying on conclusions that are demonstrably false. And it is not getting to conclusions by utilizing any additional assumptions than anybody else's system. And that's important. We all have a couple of base assumptions. We cannot have this conversation without that. But once we agree that those are the base assumptions, continuing to add more on that are not justified makes your system weaker. And that's where this conclusion is that you're coming to us with, Steve.
I would add,
Justin, go ahead. Justin,
yeah, if you don't mind, I would add, like, even if, let's say, for example, we granted that maybe we are in a simulation. Okay, we can grant that. That doesn't mean that there's a God behind it. It could necessarily be that there's a naturalistic phenomenon. There's a super evolved naturalistic entity or series of entities that have observed their own universe and then created a simulation. So it still doesn't point to a God. Like even if we could grant a simulation, it never is going to necessitate that there is a supernatural entity that is behind it. But if in fact we even granted that, let's just grant that we're in a simulation and that there was a supernatural entity behind it, we would still need the evidence that the supernatural entity was the cause of the simulation, because it still could be that we're inside of a simulation that was part of a perfectly natural cause that God didn't actually do.
Yeah. And can I add one more thing to what Justin said? Even if we're in a simulation, this simulation looks pretty much exactly like a world that was not in a simulation. So pragmatically, it makes no freaking difference. Like, it's identical. If this is what being in a simulation looks like, then it's identical to not being in a simulation. So why should I even give a fuck? But go on.
Laws of physics. There are ways we can tell that we're being simulated. It's a very damn good simulation we're in, and it's pretty damn close
You
to
just
base
ignored
reality.
everything that we said.
Yeah, I know. This is so frustrating. I feel, Steve, like you probably heard me sound like an asshole earlier in the show, because I know what it's like to be in one of these call queues. So I feel like you probably heard me say some not super nice things about another caller that didn't fucking listen to any goddamn thing that we said. I would really, really love it if we could, as adults, go back and forth and follow the words that the other person is saying so that we can actually have a conversation. I would love to live in a world that is for sure demonstrated to be a fucking simulation. That sounds kick-ass to me, man. But let's actually talk to each other, and then maybe we can figure out if I'm wrong or you're wrong, or maybe we're both kind of right and we're just looking at it differently. So let's try this. Hey, Armin, you just had a couple of really good points. Would you mind just saying those again for us?
No, I was. My main point was like, because there are other people that make arguments for simulation, and they are better than what Steve is saying. I'm not saying they're right, but they're better arguments. But to me, why should we care? This is basically what we tell deists. What we tell deists and what we tell people who believe in a simulation is the same thing. If a deist God is pretty much identical to a God that doesn't exist, then it doesn't make sense for us to even care about it, because it's so identical to a non-existent God that pragmatically a deistic God and a non-existent God are the same thing for us. So basically your simulation hypothesis is very close to a deistic God that is so resembling to a world, or the world that we are in a simulation is so resembling to a world that is just a base reality, that it's a waste of time. Even, I mean, it's not a waste of time. We can have fun conversations, but pragmatically, why should we care? Like, it doesn't affect us. It doesn't affect us in any way. Like, at least the people who believe in Hinduism or in the Abrahamic gods, if their claims are true, that significantly changes the things that we're supposed to do, the things that we should be care about, the consequences to are night and day. Like, we have a heaven and a hell to look forward to or be scared of. So your theory is unimportant, isn't it?
Don't you want to know? Don't you want to know if you're some character? Don't you want to know that? Do you not care?
I mean, if we're just maybe sometimes if we're just sitting next to each other and just having I want us to be happy, and I want us to have agency. Okay, that's what matters. So yeah, maybe for curiosity. I mean, I am curious. There are many things that satisfy my sense of curiosity. This would be a small itch among all the things in the world that I'm curious about. But more importantly, there are people who are suffering. There's poverty, there's war, and solving those problems seems to be not that dependent on whether or not we're in a simulation or we're in base reality.
Yeah.
Steve,
hang on just a second for us. We've been going for a minute. We got a couple other good calls I want to grab real quick, man. I really feel like didn't internalize what Armin was just saying. I get where you're coming from, though, I think, about like, hey, wouldn't you just want to know? Like, aren't you just interested by that? Like, yeah, I am. And I think all three of us agree in that. Like, we would. But I think Armin's point still supersedes that, which ultimately, whether we're in a simulation or not, it doesn't matter because this is the world that we're living in and it seems to operate like this. Anyway, though, I do appreciate you, man. I do appreciate you having a good conversation with us. Give us a call back in the future because we got a couple other we are going to go to. So I'm gonna let you go. I appreciate you though, man. Man, come on, y'all. Respond to what we're saying. Like we're not just just rambling nonsense. Like we're trying to address the thing that you're saying. But I totally agree.
By the way,
with your
Justin,
point
did you feel like you got everything you wanted to say in there? Because I feel like you need to be a little bit more aggressive here. Yeah, you got everything you wanted to say.
The last thing I would say is even if we granted literally every argument that he put forward, how would we possibly know that the God that created the simulation was a good God, that it actually wanted a relationship with us, or that it even wanted us to know that he exists? Like we are now smuggling in religious assumptions about the God that made the simulation. But just like deism, just like theism, if indeed the simulation is actually something that was designed by God, then he's a barbarian because he put us on a planet that is covered in 97% poisonous water. We can't drink it. We have an incredible amount, a high amount of death rate, even for infants. There's natural disasters that just execute people at random. So like, even if we came to the conclusion that we're in a simulation designed by God, there's zero reason to believe that this God is good, much less that he loves us and that we're going to experience some sort of an afterlife. I see the whole theory of simulation is trying to do the same thing that the philosophy is doing with the nondescript God. You're trying to say that, well, based on the argument that we're laying out, we can say that there is at least a God, but then behind that, you want to smuggle in all of your religious assumptions behind it. But none of those religious assumptions can be founded, even if that God was some sort of a metaphysical necessity.
Yeah. We might be on a forgotten server somewhere. Like we might be just one of the gazillion servers that are just running for different purposes, and this is just like one in the corner that is just running because nobody pays attention to, because they have infinite number of worlds and infinite number of servers, and they're just testing, and we're just like one of them, and nobody's actually paying attention to us. It's just running on its own, and we just hope nobody pulls the plug. I saw somebody in the live chat. Yeah, I saw somebody in the live chat praying, saying, "Somebody please update the sim."
Yeah,
so
serious.
That was funny. Yeah,
we haven't gotten an update in a long time.
Yeah.
Well,
don't pray; they might pull the plug.
Speaking of all of the amazing tech gods and the wizardry that happens with these boxes of wires called computers, we have to give a massive shout out to our wonderful, incredible behind the scenes crew. They do so much work every week and they put up with our garbage. Can we see those lovely faces of crew? I don't know if we can get them up or not. Yeah, they are. Look at them. Yay. They're so amazing. There's a drum set in there. I'm jealous. And there are so many other people that are not even there. We've got video operators, audio operators, note takers, call screeners, chat moderators, people responding to your emails and the like. So thank you all so very much. You guys make it happen for us. And I apparently have a couple of other shirts that I need to put on. So
indeed,
no way.
Unholy 691.
You look like you exercise.
Thanks, man.
Like
Thanks. No, I am actually. It's all muscle. Yeah, all muscle and cotton. Unholy 691 sending 279 Canadian. Thank you so much. When we've got $10 from Solo Vino saying, Justin, don't forget us when you become famous for destroying all of God's terrible arguments. Hell,
I would never. I would never. I love all of you.
And that is a shirt, it looks like, for me. We've got $5 from Omega Weapon, been a member for a year, saying, all I need to know about life I learned from Star Trek. Yes. That is a much better source than a holy book. We've also got $50 from Aaron Leitz saying, why should anyone accept an extraordinary, unfalsifiable claim? Yep. I am right there with you. Hail Doug, hail Sagan, let's go Justin and the AE crew. Yes, indeed. And then we've got $10 more from New Deconstruction saying, twisted scriptures. Hi, Justin, first time here. Hello to all hosts. It is so great. Thank you so much for all of that. That looks like another... Fucking Christ, another 4 shirts. Do I have enough? I think I have enough. I'm just gonna put on 4 shirts one way or the other.
I don't want this to go all the way to 10, or you have to keep going.
No, he goes until he looks like Ralphie from the Christmas Story in his coat.
Yeah, we didn't do a great job of like putting an end to this. So
you should have had an upper limit.
I know we should have thought about this more. Hey guys, also as a reminder, feel free to just throw out your ideas for challenges in the future, and we will do them. Maybe. Anyway, I'm going to put these shirts on, and we are going to talk with Mike, is a theist out in South Carolina, he, him pronouns, wants to talk about the difference between an atheist and a self-aware AI. So I'm genuinely not positive where we're going, but hey, Mike, what you got for us today? You were on the Atheist Experience.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Hey, good. I know it's the end of the show and all that. This could be an expensive topic, but anyway, I don't know where it's going to go. I want to put it to you. What is the difference between an atheist and a self-aware AI, as we understand self-aware AIs? And from a Christian,
atheists are carbon-based. AI is silicon-based.
Go ahead.
Atheists are carbon-based.
Well, yeah. I mean, I get that. I mean, besides, as far as a life form goes, what is the difference, really, between an atheist?
We don't consider AI to be a life form.
Same.
Depends on your definition of life. Some people consider, based on some definitions of life, if it's self-replicating, if it's it could be a life form based on some. It depends. The definition of life changes. We have multiple definitions of life. Based on some definitions, AI is not a life form. Based on some definitions, it is a life form. What definition of life are you going by? But we are so different between AI. It's easier to. Here's the thing. Atheists are human, so your question is basically more: what are the difference between humans and self-aware AI? And that depends on your definition of self-awareness. That depends on the type of self-awareness that we're talking about, because there are many different ways where people categorize, like some self. I know, and it depends on the type of the AI. Like we could right now, if we consider the AI today self-aware, the process in which the AI is self-aware is very different from human self-awareness. I don't even know why you're zooming in on atheists, because all the differences that I would list, depending on the type of AI that you're going to be referring to, all the differences that I would list between atheists and that form of AI would apply to the difference between any type of human and that AI. Why are you zooming in on atheists?
The reason I'm zooming in is
did SR just change color?
Somebody who thinks they're made by...
Right.
All the shirts he's putting on is turning him jaundiced.
He looks like he has lips.
Yeah, I know.
Go on. Sorry, Mike.
I mean, you look really good for being in your third trimester.
Right. Oh my God. Oh, okay.
Sorry, Mike.
Assuming secular rarity is okay. If I make nice eyebrows.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The big difference is people have a soul, and if you think you're made by God, you've got a soul. Whereas atheists like, nah, we don't have a soul.
What is a soul? What's your soul? Like, why are you just assuming things? And do you think that we would agree with that? What do you mean by a soul? What's your definition of a soul? And also, if you believe in a soul, are you suggesting that we're more like AI because we're atheists? Wouldn't, based on a religious understanding, atheists also have souls? Our denial, if there are souls, if people have souls, atheists denying the existence of souls doesn't mean that we're closer to AI, because we will also have souls based on your understanding of the world. So I don't know what you're talking about. What is a soul?
Yeah, you're exactly right. If you look at it from an atheist point of view, you don't have a soul. You're just an organic organism, and then you.
Yeah, but wouldn't that? If you're saying that we are more like AI because AI doesn't have a soul and we don't have a soul, so that wouldn't mean that wouldn't make atheists similar to AI. That would make, from our perspective, Christians and Muslims and everyone else would also, in that specific sense, be like AI. It wouldn't. Atheists don't go around and say that, okay, you guys might have souls, but we're special. We don't have souls. We think many atheists, again, not all atheists, most atheists think that about everybody. So again, I don't understand, why are you comparing atheists to AI, given that from your perspective, all humans have souls, including AI, and at least from our perspective, I don't want to speak for all atheists, no one has souls, including religious people. So again, there would not be a difference between atheists and non-atheists from this perspective.
Okay, that's interesting what you just said, but I guess if the religious person is saying they have a soul, comparing himself to AI, versus an atheist person thinking, I don't have a soul, hey, I'm just like AI. That's what I'm looking at.
I think I've heard this argument before, so let me help you out, because I think I can deliver it better than what you're delivering. I think what you're getting at is that if we don't have souls and we don't have like this intrinsic God-given value, then somehow there's no rationale for us to even have such a thing as like a moral system, because we're really no different than just AI. Is this going to end in the morality argument?
Oh, I left it open-ended. I don't know where it's going to end, but I was throwing that out there.
Okay, so you're basically, your entire point is that from our perspective sucks, because from our perspective, given that we don't have a soul, we are pretty close from an atheist perspective. We're basically very close to a self-aware AI. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Is that what
I'm asking you? I'm thinking that's where you're going, but I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Is that your stance?
All right. So without a soul. Okay. First of all, if AI gets close, as of right now, the differences between AI and humans without souls is so much more significant for us to require a soul to differentiate us. Okay. And I don't know if AI ever gets close to functioning like a human brain, then they would have the same feelings that we have. And this human beings being special has nothing to do with this, with us having a soul. We find each other interesting because of the processes behind the way our brain operates. So for example, let's say a human expresses sympathy, sadness, happiness, and another human being sees that and is interested in that and finds that meaningful. If an AI does that, the reason why we don't find that as interesting right now is because we think that the processes, the algorithm behind that expression is so different from, for example, Justin here. Justin comes here and expresses like he's sad, he's concerned about something. That affects me because I can relate to that. The reason why I know I can relate to that, because he's human, I'm human, so I assume that the feeling of sadness that he's experiencing must be very similar to the feeling of sadness that I'm experiencing. So there's a level of sympathy and empathy here. If an AI comes and expresses sadness, I know this is not the same, because it's not a human brain behind that, it's not a human behind that, so there is nothing to relate to here. So the similarities, the knowledge of the similarity behind the processes in which the expression that comes about makes the experience relatable. None of this requires a soul. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't agree. It doesn't. A human brain is not required to feel empathy, and we don't know what's going on in the AI.
I didn't say. That's not what I said. I didn't say a human brain is required to feel empathy. I said the similarity, the similarity behind the experience. An AI, as of right now, cannot have the experiences. Do you not agree with that, Mike? Do you agree that an AI, if it expresses sadness, okay, I know that AI is not going through the same experience that I am going through when I express sadness. Okay. Do you agree with that part? But Justin, you get in it.
Just to be sure,
what the programming is on the AI. It's unknown.
So I worked with a little bit of AI before. But so AI can never experience the same range of emotions that we're experiencing, because what we're experiencing are neurochemical reactions within the body. That's a strictly biological experience that you'll never get outside of another biological experience. But once you get to a point where you've got a biological sentient organism, it's no longer AI, it's just a biological sentient organism. So there's no way that AI will ever be able to experience the world in the same way that we experience the world, unless it develops like oxytocin receptors and a different type of glandulary things that are necessary for transmitting neurochemicals and opening pathways in the brain that allow you to feel things. Those are things that will never happen with AI. So we will literally never be the same thing.
It won't be the same, but the feelings could be. The AI, computers, robots, they sense things through touch different than how we do it. They can hear differently than our eardrum. They see differently with photoreceptors than our photoreceptors.
I'm not talking about empirical senses. I'm talking about the mental states, feeling love, feeling affection, feeling sadness. These are mental states that are driven by neurochemicals. So that is the thing that AI can't seem to replicate, nor probably will it ever replicate.
Well, we don't know, not ever.
That's not what I see with the AI that's going on. It's replicating it. Is it feeling it the same way? No. But it's going to create its own ways, and it'll look the same. And then, how it got there will be immaterial. And then the next step, of course, is it's better, smarter, faster than us. And then where I'm going with this isn't necessarily the moral one, but
hang on just a second, Mike. Hang on just a second, Mike. There's a problem though that you jumped over. That's a really, really big gulf here, I think, that Justin was mentioning. And one of the big things that Justin was talking about was the literal biological function, right, of just certain cells. Like we don't have that in computers, man. And that's a pretty big gulf you got to get past there, man. You just can't go like, yeah, well, we'll get there eventually, maybe. And it's like, yeah, but how? Especially if, again, like Justin said, you go from AI to just essentially biological sentient organism, because that's what it would be, right? That's the difference there between them. So how do you manage that gulf there, man?
Man, I was expecting more from you guys, you high-tech guys. I mean, come on, we don't need a Krebs cycle. You got a battery. You've got cameras instead of eyes. And then as far as feelings go, that can be programmed in. It's like, is this unjust?
You don't understand anything about how these things work, and you expect that they're not the same.
You're not addressing any of the things that was just brought up, man. When it comes to the brain states, that's what Justin was talking about, right? We get how a computer could receive like photographic information. We get how like photons and shit could go into a camera lens, and then the computer could pick that up. We're on board with that. The thing that we're not on board with is what we call these brain states like love and anxiety and happiness or preparedness for something in the future. Those seem to be very intrinsically tied to biological processes.
Right.
How do you get past
Right.
that with a computer that doesn't have any of those?
Yeah, the experiences that you're having right now is closer to like our resemblance of our feeling to a dog, to a cat, to a mouse, to a bird. We're so much closer to that. This is why we can empathize, like we can relate to a dog, but not to AI. We are so far away from that. We're so, by the way, Justin, we have to argue over this because when you said we will never get there, I don't know if we might get there. We might be able to replicate.
I think the point I'm saying is once we get to a point where we've got something that is biologically capable that's in the AI field of doing what we're doing biologically, at that point, it's not really AI. It's just another biological organism.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I just want to be on record that if eventually these things control the world or whatever, I was not dismissing their experiences in any way.
Don't listen to them, future
Their experiences
AI
are
overlords.
valid. Your feelings are matter. They matter to me. Just remember that. I just want to be on record for that.
Skynet's coming for me first. I know it.
I'll rat you out, Armin. Don't you think you'll get away from it? Mike, we got a couple other good calls, man. I want to grab here real quick before we go. And I think, unfortunately, I might have another shirt or two to put on. But we appreciate you, man, giving us a call and hang out with us again. Give us another call back. Let's talk some more about AI. I do think that's a really, really cool topic. I don't think it really gets us very far when it comes to the topic of like religion and stuff, though.
No.
But thank you so much, Mike. We do appreciate you. And okay, I'm just gonna do this, and we'll just go grab some other calls. Miranda Rensberger.
You should have some ice water next to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go get some ice cream or something. Put them on my exposed ass or something. Anyway, Miranda Rensberger, $10. Been a great supporter and member for like 6 months or something. So how many shirts do you own, SR? And the answer is not many more than I've got on. So I don't know. We will see what happens if we cross that bridge. So thank you, Miranda. $4.99 from Frank Howell saying, Deconstruction Zone crew in the house. By the way, Justin,
good to see your friends.
Justin has fulfilled at least a dozen messianic prophecies. Hail Justin, Doug, and Satan, the Holy Trinity. Yes, we are on board with that. We've got $10 more from Kal El Ben Shahar saying, as a victim of Christianity, I appreciate the atheist experience and all y'all have done over the years. Now put on a shirt, SR. Yeah, I've heard that many times in my life. You know what? We should do this differently. I should get $10 for every time somebody's telling me to put a shirt on. I'd be very, very wealthy. One more, son of a bitch. Jesus Christ in heaven. What do we have? 4? Okay. All right. No, 3.
If you do this fundraiser again, I will mail you shirts to put on just in case you run out.
I do love that. Just seeing me like unboxing them. Okay. All right. Final one. William Blanken, member for 6 months, $10. Thank you. Thank you, William. I know it might not sound like I'm appreciative right now of your super chat, but I am. SR has to put on a coat now or admit he's AI. Yes, we do not know. I could, in fact, be AI, but whether I am AI or sentient organic matter, I think there is a temperature threshold that I need to stay under. But as I put 3 more shirts on, we are going to talk with Chloe. She, her is a theist out in Michigan, asking about evidence for God and whatnot. Well, hey, Chloe, I think we've talked before. You're chatting with SR, Justin, and Armin. What is up?
Hi, guys.
Good to hear from you.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Sorry, was somebody about to say something?
You're
No,
a
you're
theist,
good. I'm just
or
dying.
do you
Go
believe
ahead.
in a particular God?
I do, and I actually have some questions. But if you guys want to ask me questions first, that's fine.
Well,
No,
I'd
no,
love
go
to hear
ahead.
your questions. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
she called in to ask a question. So what? Like, ask a question.
Yeah. So I've been learning enough to know that I what I believe in and what it's based on isn't something that I'm confident as presenting as evidence that would, fit for the scientific method. And I've also been picking up that, there's been various studies done about things to do with religion and the spiritual experience and prayer. And I was wondering, first of all, I was wondering, have any atheists, because I'm still learning here, has anybody ever, come up with what would be considered scientific evidence for God?
Depends on what you mean by God.
I've never seen it.
What do you mean by God?
So nobody's ever come up with some kind of a. So nobody's ever come up with some kind of a study.
They've tried.
Yes.
Has an atheist ever come up with a study that somebody has attempted and failed, or that nobody's ever attempted?
I mean,
depends again what you mean by God.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Chloe, I'll say this is a little bit tricky. And in part, the reason it's tricky is because it does very much depend on what it is that are the attributes of this thing, right? Because how we would design a test for a mammal that has 4 legs, that has fur, that leaves droppings is very different from how we would design a test for a 2-legged creature that has wings with feathers, right? So what we would be doing would be very dependent on that. And I do have another jacket I'm going to try and put on while I'm talking here, Chloe, but I will say this, which is one thing I have heard somebody say in the past, and I believe this comes to us from the ways of the illustrious Apologia and Shannon Q. If you're not familiar with them, they're wonderful. But I believe in the past they have discussed a generalized criteria that they would say fits this, right? And it's basically something in the vein of a falsifiable, repeatable test that provides reliably consistent information, on the other end of it, right? So it's tough because ultimately that still doesn't get to some of the specifics I think that you're hoping for. And I'm with you. That's a frustration, but that frustration is not really on the fault of the people making the test. We'd gladly make the test more specific if only we knew what exactly your God is, To
be fair, there have been tests attempting to prove religious adjacent type of metaphysical claims, like whether or not there could be a soul, whether or not there are out-of-body experiences, whether or not people having near-death experiences are experiencing something real or hallucinatory. And I doubt we have time to go over the studies, but I'll give you 2 of them if you want. They don't conclude with God, though. They conclude more along the lines of neurology. A doctor named Sam Parnia set up 25 different hospitals from 2008 to 2014, and then he did it again from 2016 to 2023. And they specifically studied patients who had near-death experiences, and then they were resuscitated back to life. Most of them were cardiac arrest patients, and they retrofitted these hospital rooms with items that they could only see if they had an out-of-body experience. And then when people had out-of-body reports, they quizzed them to see if they were able to observe anything that could confirm the out-of-body experience, and it didn't work. The 2 projects that he led is the AWARE project and the AWARE project number 2, and both of them conclude that people reporting out-of-body experiences during near-death experiences aren't actually having them. And then there have been other studies as well. You can read a summary of one on PubMed. the PubMed article is going to be ID PMC 535951, which concluded, it says, in summary, the neurological evidence shows that out-of-body experiences are related to a disintegration with personal space, so multisensory dysfunction, and a disintegration between personal space and extrapersonal space due to interference with the temporal parental junction. So there's some medical jargon, but all of the studies that they've done on out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences all point to the fact that it basically is happening within your cranium and not outside of your cranium. And that's as close as a medical study has ever come to validating something supernatural.
Can I take a stab at this? So can you, are you talking about God? So the reason why I kept on asking you what you mean by God, let's categorize this, because let's go to testing God himself. So Justin mentioned the things that are religious claims, right? But let's go to the God himself and let's see if we could test God. Are you talking about an entity that interacts with the universe or an entity that doesn't interact with the universe?
I am talking about the personally interactive God, who I believe is a person, who is love. I strive to be a biblically loyal Christian, and then that leads to a whole bunch of tangents. Okay, but yes,
that's all. That's all I need. Interacting, okay? Because if we are talking about a so-called God that doesn't interact with the world, we're talking about an unfalsifiable claim that cannot be tested, right? So testing that is basically, it's a useless claim. Doesn't matter if it's real or not real. So that's, and it cannot be tested, it cannot be proven, it cannot be unproven, it's useless, right? So we're talking about a God that is interacting with the universe, right? So how do we test such a God? Usually when we want to test like things, it's because we have an environment, we have a controlled environment where we get to pull the lever and see what happens, right? Now you're talking about an entity that we don't have any control over. It's doing its own things, and it's supposed to have some effect on our universe, right? So the best we can do is to see if we see such effects, and we're not noticing any of them. Like, we're not noticing any such interaction between such an entity and our universe, okay? So either we're missing it all the time, okay? Or because we don't get to press the button. Like, we don't have this entity in a lab to see what it does. It's separate from us if it exists, and it's deciding when it wants to do something. So the best we could do is to see if we notice such events. And if we don't, if this is a God that is so engaging with our universe, as it's been claimed, but we're not seeing it, either he's being very sneaky about it, or he doesn't exist, right? It's like, or is this a false dichotomy? Like, why are we missing it all? Like, do you have any other explanation? Maybe I'm missing it. Maybe it's a false dichotomy. I'm thinking through this, right? But even if this God exists, if I'm not noticing any such effect, like for example, let's say red bears, right? Do they exist? You claim that red bears exist. Is this what is the scientific test for red bears? There's no scientific examination for red bears. If I don't see any red bears, the claim that they exist, I can ignore it. If I see one, then I could oh shit, look, there's a freaking red bear. So they are real. But up until I see, when you are looking for a scientific test, you're talking about things that are already, we have them with us, and we can do change it, do A/B testing, put it in different conditions and see what happens. But if you're claiming that the red bear exists and I don't have any red bears, there's no test that I could conduct other than going looking for red bears. And until I see one, then I can't believe in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm getting most of what you're saying. And then just to make it click a little better, could you educate me and refresh me on what unfalsifiable means?
Yeah, so unfalsifiable means that there is something that cannot be proven or unproven. So, for example, we have very amazing examples, and I will give you my example. So we have like the Carl Sagan's his dragon in the garage. Like he claims that he has a dragon in his garage that is invisible, that produces no heat, no footprint. It cannot be detected by any entity, with any test, with any measurement. So he claims, I have this dragon in my garage. Can he prove that his dragon exists? No, but you can't prove that it doesn't exist. Are you going to believe in his dragon? No. And then we had Russell's teapot. He claims that there's a teapot orbiting around the sun between the orbit of the Earth and Mars. And because there's no telescope to detect something that small in space, you cannot prove that that teapot doesn't exist. He cannot prove to you that it's there, but you cannot prove that it doesn't exist. Are you going to believe in his teapot? But the best example is a giant, enormous turtle that farted, and that the fart was basically the reason why we have the Big Bang. So the Big Bang is basically the beginning of our universe that started from a parallel universe with a giant, enormous turtle in it, and his fart was so massive that it basically created a wormhole into our universe and started our universe. And because it was in a parallel universe, there's no way that you could access that parallel universe. You cannot prove that this is real, but you cannot. It could be true. There's no way to prove that this theory is wrong. So these are demonstration of unfalsifiable claims. I can claim it, I cannot prove it, but there's no way to prove that I'm wrong either.
So unfalsifiable, then, to put it, to kind of feed it back to you in my Chloe speak to make sure I'm getting it. It's like, you can't pin enough of it down. You can't get enough control of it to be able to to know and have under your control and in your hands and in some kind of a verifiable way, like what is and isn't the thing.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It basic that there's an element of that, right? Oftentimes the claims that are unfalsifiable are these ones that are really amorphous, or these ones that we don't really have, a good understanding of what exactly it is that we're trying to demonstrate, but in general, an unfalsifiable claim is just a claim that has no way whatsoever of being proven incorrect. And it is, in fact, the falsifiability of a claim that makes it strong. The easier it is to knock down a particular claim, the stronger that those claims actually are at the end of the day, because we've got so much ability to knock them down, buddy. And we've tried all of these different ways, and yet none of them could prove this, could prove this wrong. That's a big deal.
Yeah. And the existence of supernatural entities is like a particular classification of unfalsifiable claims. It is in the classification of proving things don't exist, right? So if it's unfalsifiable based on its existence, that means you're asking us to prove that something doesn't exist. But things that don't exist simply don't have proof because they don't exist.
Right.
So God is categorized as an unfalsifiable claim because on our end, you're asking us to give you proof that something that doesn't exist doesn't actually exist.
And the most important part of for the point of this conversation, the most important attribute of unfalsifiable claims is that there's infinite number of them. We could make infinite numbers of claims that can't be proven to be true, but also can't be proven to be wrong. And because there are infinite numbers of them, we should take each one of them as seriously as 1 over infinity, which is as close to 0 as you could get.
Okay. So I have another question then. I'm curious, because it seems like it would be really nifty and helpful. Like, has there ever been some kind of like a I feel like it would, I think, benefit the atheist community, and then also like benefit theists like me, who, get these curiosities. Like, has there been like one database compiled of like every study that's had to do with like religion, the spiritual experience, whatnot, and like one kind of website or one database where they could all be found, so that they could all be examined like in chronological order.
I don't think so off the top of my head. I do remember about Iron Chariots in years past. That was like a database like that, although I'm not positive that is still
ChatGPT to list them for you.
Yeah, but yeah, you could do that on ChatGPT or do some searches on like NCBI and NIH and those.
There is a
things.
website for this now. Somebody has started to compile a database, by the way.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It's spiritualdata.org.
All right.
And I don't know how long they've been compiling data, but I've referenced their website before. So if you're looking for data on spiritual, experiences, that's at least one website that is compiling people's spiritual experiences.
Heck yeah, I like that. Well,
I think what I'm most interested to learn about is it would be neat if there was like a localized, one jackpot place where like every study to do with religion and spiritual experience could be, and then they could be like in chronological order. If somebody like me just wanted to like look at all the different experiments that have been done, she's kind of get a feel for that, not just about like the data.
What's wrong with asking ChatGPT?
Armin is a big fan of utilizing ChatGPT. No, I don't think there's
perplexity. I don't know.
I think that I think that what you're asking for is something that would be really cool. And this is why I'll just say, Chloe, even though I know you are a theist, I know you're a believer, and we're not, but I'll just say this is why I think we should normalize atheism more, and we should all be on the same side of that. Because the reason why, in part, we don't have a database like that already is because it hasn't been okay to be an atheist for a long time. Like it wasn't that long ago. A lot of us were in the we would have been rounded up. There are places still today that is the case, right? But I think overall, though, I think we all kind of are on the same page in terms of like, it'd be great if we had all of this data really easily at hand. Again, Armin's going to yell about using ChatGPT and how great it is and how
let me tell you why. Let me tell you why it's better than a database, because you can interact with it. So you could ask to list it for you, and you're like, I don't understand this one. Can you explain this one to me? And like, you can't do that with a database. So this is actually a perfect solution. I don't know why you guys are dismissing it.
Whatever. Look, Chloe, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We are going to grab another call, and I appreciate you, and give us a call back in the future. I always appreciate good conversation like this. And, we do a lot of questioning of people. I am not opposed to answering some questions myself, here and there. But thank you so much, Chloe. We are going to move on. I have some super chats to read. I'm really happy about this. Alan B sent $10 saying another one. Thanks, Alan. Really.
People are concerned.
Really appreciate
in the live
That's because
chat.
They're humanists, Armin. That's because they're humanists, and at least a quarter of them have medical experience. We've got $5 from Flanker420 saying, all hail Doug, he is my rock. I see what you did there. We've got Stacy Mars sending $1.99 and no message. And I just want to say, Stacy, thank you for not sending an extra $8 and a penny in that super chat. You may have saved somebody's life tonight. $2 from Kal El Ben Shahar saying, how much of a donation for you to turn on the heat? Yeah, it is like 70-something degrees in here anyway.
Turn on the heat? I thought you said they're humanists. Okay.
Well, you know what? Not
Atheists don't have
call-out.
morals, remember?
That's
So-
right. We don't have
Right.
morals. Right. I'm
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
breaking out in a rash at this point, practically. $5 from Miranda Rinsberger. Thank you, Miranda, saying no more shirts, SR, just get a bucket of ice water. Yes, I know. Some kind of Dickie sending $5 saying, I see a red bear on the screen right now. Yeah, design a test to prove red bears exist. Thanks for watching fucking AXP today. Yeah, did you see that dickhead on screen just having a fucking heat stroke? We got $20 from Maximilian. Oh my god. Saying, SR, hate to see you suffer. As far as I'm concerned, you can take a shirt off for every donation from here on as appreciation for taking so many calls and going on for so long. This one counts for 2 pieces. AXP, thank you so much. You are awesome. You are awesome, Max. You have been around for a long freaking time. I think even before I was on the shows or anything, man. You have been a long time supporter, Maximilian. I really appreciate you. We have more to go. Shaya Madavi. I'm sorry, Shaya. I'd probably pronounce your name better if I wasn't dying. 279 Canadian. Will you debate David Wood? He attacks liberalism. I think you would probably debate David Wood. Armin, I think probably. Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who that's for, to be honest. Yeah, so I can.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
Actually, I was supposed to email him. Shit. Thank you for reminding me.
Come on, man. Get your ass together.
He told me that he will come on our channel, Atheist Republic. So I will thank you for that reminder. Yes, so I will email him.
Well, there you go. You might have cool content in the future. We've got $1.99. Sorry, it is 1.99 British pounds from MT the Trash saying, this show has proven the devil exists, SR. That is correct. If you start seeing horns produced from the top of my head or me just passed out and not breathing correctly, make a phone call. And finally, Alan B. sending another $10. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. By the time SR is done strip teasing, his partner has lost interest. That is if they ever had interest to begin with. That is correct.
Hey, now.
Oh, my goodness. Well, folks, we are going to grab another call. We've got Jackie, no pronouns, theist out in Mississippi, wants to talk about the Kuzari argument from Judaism. What is up, Jackie? You are on AXP.
Hey, what is up with you, handsome gentlemen?
Not too much. Just taking calls.
Okay, so basically in this call, I would like to present the basic premises of the Kuzari argument for Judaism. And basically the argument's premises are that because the entire Israelite nation, the entire Jewish nation testifies to the revelation of the Torah at Mount Sinai, that's evidence that God exists, or it's highly improbable that like 1 million plus people would have conspired to forge your death.
That's a claim that they saw it. He says you have to prove that the entire nation of Israel saw that. So you're claiming that something significant has happened, and that something significant shows that there's a God. But can you prove that that significant thing actually happened?
Well, 1 million plus Israelites testified to it. Is that not evident?
But 50% of the modern Jewish people are actually atheists.
Yes, but they're not the ones who lived during biblical times who testified to it.
No,
Okay, so
you're saying that
the ancient Jews,
1 million people saw God revealing himself, right?
1 million.
And then I say, how
testified.
do you know that? And you say, because they testified. So first of all, we don't have any evidence that they did testify. But even if they did, that doesn't make it real just because 1 million people said so. But you don't even have evidence that 1 million people did testify at the same time that they saw God reveal himself. Where's the evidence for that? We don't have such an evidence.
But just to clarify, if 1 million people testify to something, does not count as some level of evidence?
where can we find these testimonies?
10 people.
Justin.
It's recorded in the Torah that 1 million plus Israelites, about
Okay. Well,
circular.
it'd be about 2.5 million according to the Book of Numbers, because there were 600,000 fighting men that left Egypt. But that being the case, we don't have thousands of accounts. We've got just a biblical account, and the documents for the Bible are almost 900 years after the fact. The oldest biblical document that we have is 2 little silver amulets from Ketef Hinnom that have a little inscription, a blessing from the Book of Numbers, and that's many hundreds of years after the supposed Moses would have lived. And the book that also attests to these laws being given is full of bad science, contradictions, failed history, failed predictions. So I wouldn't find it to be a reliable witness of anything.
Also, Jackie, I just wrote on this piece of paper that 1 million people saw me create the universe, okay? So what do you have to say to that?
So where do you think the biblical authors got the reference for 2.5 million Israelites? Where do you think they got
What does
that
it matter?
Well,
What does it matter?
is,
Maybe they just made it up.
what I'm saying is the Book of Numbers gives you a reference. It says there were a little over 600,000 fighting men that left Egypt. And if that's the case, that's a small subset of the nation of Israel. Most scholars have already crunched the numbers on this, and it comes out between 2 and 2.5 million people, if that's how many fighting men around the age of 20, between 20 and 40 existed.
Okay, so do you deny that a significant number of people testifying to the same exact event is evidence that event happened? Not proof.
Those people didn't testify to it.
No, not yeah. What we're saying is, we do not accept that we do actually have that testimony from all those people to begin with. But even if we did, we'll give it to you. Hey, we've got it. But that still does not indicate the thing that you're saying. But we don't have that. We don't even have it to begin with. And
based on your argument, we should be Christian then, not Jewish, because Christians say the same thing. Like, a shit ton of people saw Jesus. There's one person claims that a shit ton of people saw Jesus ascend to heaven. So
there's millions of people that watched Muhammad split the moon in half. It's recorded. It's written down. I don't know why you don't take your shahada.
You could write anything down. You could write like, why just stop at the million? Why just like, there's no stopping with numbers that I could write down. Just say a gazillion people saw God reveal himself. Like, why not that?
Yeah. And like, we've got
stuff.
Similar claims too, like in both in Tacitus and Suetonius. We've got a story where a whole multitude of people watched Emperor Vespasian heal a man that was blind, and heal a man with a lame leg using the power of Serapis. But like, you certainly wouldn't accept this claim as being true. You don't think that Serapis healed a blind man under the guidance of Emperor Vespasian, do you?
Well, no, because there's not a recording of a significant number of people testifying.
No, there is.
But what I'm saying is,
no, there is. In Life of the 12 Caesars in Suetonius, says a whole multitude of people witnessed it.
Well, how
same thing with
Jackie,
same with Herodotus.
Your entire argument relies on people in ancient times not making things up. That's your entire argument relies on this.
Yeah, it's not a great.
And we have a lot of evidence for people making a ton of shit up. Yeah. And writing it down.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead. A whole bunch of people witnessed Aristeus rise from the dead, according to Herodotus, Book 4 of Histories. Do you think that Aristeus rose from the dead and appeared in front of a multitude of people on 2 different occasions?
No, I don't believe that. Can I please speak?
Oh,
so
okay.
What I'm saying is 2.5 million people, I'll say, didn't witness giving of the Torah. The 2.5 million is so astronomically large that I highly doubt the original authors didn't see a significant multitude.
Awesome. So I'm with you there. Follow with me, though, Jackie, okay? Let me give you that point, okay? I'm on board with you. 2 million people all testifying to the exact same thing makes it seem like it's probably more true that thing happened. Are we on the same page there, Jackie?
Yes.
Okay, where are the 2 million accounts? Where are the 2 million accounts then? If that's your criteria, I'll play your game. And then we'd have to do the next thing. You say, hey, man, it's wild. 2 million people would all say the same fucking thing. I agree, man. That's wild. Let's start with number one. Where's number one? And then we'll move on to number two.
Well, what I'm saying is the biblical author, it's highly unlikely that they would have come up with a number like 2 million if it was completely arbitrary.
Why is it highly unlikely? Why is that highly unlikely, Jackie?
It sounds like he's defeating his own argument, saying that the biblical author is saying something that's unlikely.
Let's say it's 100 people witness it, giving them the Torah at Mount Sinai. How would that be confused for 200 or not 200 million? How would 100 people be confused for 2 million people?
Well, I think you're missing
that is
SR's argument. SR's argument is, where are the actual witnesses? What you have is one witness. You have one document claiming that the events happened. If there were hundreds and hundreds of documents from people that witnessed the thing happened, then there would be some credibility to whether or not something actually happened. But you don't have that. You have one document.
Well, I'm saying how would the author of the document come up with?
Okay, well, hang on, Jackie, hang on. You're asking the question, how would this author come up with this crazy number, right? Am I understanding?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. What did Justin just say, though?
Sorry, I don't quite remember. Could you?
That's okay. That's okay. That's fine. Not a problem. Hang on. Okay. Hey, Justin, that was a good point, man. What did you just say? And then ask Jackie.
What I was asking is, where are the witnesses? Because we've got one witness. The one witness claims that many people saw it. What we don't have are many witnesses saying, I saw this thing. And we can attribute it to anything else. For example, we already talked about Herodotus. We already talked about Suetonius. We already talked about the splitting of the moon. We've got lots of stories where we've got like one witness to it, and the one witness claims that lots of people saw it. But what we never have are lots of witnesses writing it down for us to examine later. So based on the same reasoning why you would claim that Muhammad didn't split the moon in two and he didn't ride a flying donkey during the nighttime, the same virtue that you would apply to that, saying, no, I don't believe that those stories are true, we would just apply it to yours. We've got one witness to this narrative. The narrative is suspect. It comes from many hundreds of years after the fact. We have no witnesses even close to the time of the supposed Moses, and the biblical timeline doesn't line up either. The Bible can't even get the story straight itself. So the witness that you're pointing to is a non-starter. The witness you're pointing to claims that the Exodus happened in the middle of the 1400s, according to 1 Kings chapter 6. But it also says that the Israelites built the storehouses of Pithom and Ramses. But Ramses didn't reign into the middle of the 1200s. He reigned from like 1279 to 1225. So they couldn't have built the storehouses of Ramses if Ramses wasn't born for another 200 years. So the witnesses that you're appealing to is actually only one witness, and it's not a good witness.
Also, doesn't the biblical account kind of actually prove that it's whoever wrote it didn't know what they were talking about? Like, don't we have actually archaeological evidence that Jews were not enslaved in Egypt in this way that the Bible says, that there was no mass exodus? In fact, if anything, we have evidence that Judaism is full of shit.
The Bible itself teaches that.
They left Egypt to stay in Egypt. Like,
right. The Bible itself debunks the idea that there were slaves in Egypt. When they left, remember, they put the blood over the doorpost of their houses. Slaves don't own their own individual houses.
Yeah, duh. Oh my God, duh. That's a really good point.
There's no way they were literal slaves there.
Holy, that's the first time I've thought about that, Justin. That's wild. I cannot believe I have never pointed that out before in that story. Like, oh yeah, just put the blood over your house. How? Where the fuck are they living? Oh my God, that's crazy. Okay. Anyway, Jackie, I know.
Justin, no, wait. I want to ask this from Justin. So, and also archaeological evidence shows that the Jews were actually there was a rebellion against the Canaanites. They came from that area. It wasn't like they came in from another place and started a war. This was an uprising of people who lived there against the people who were ruling over them from that. And they took the story of this mass exodus from some other people and they copied it and they brought this to religion. This is what the archaeological evidence shows. Is that correct?
Yeah, and so this is along the lines of what you would hear from like Israel Finkelstein or William Devers on the population exodus theory. It's much more likely, given the archaeological data, that the majority of the people were actually indigenous Canaanites, and that there was a small group of people that might have migrated from like the Midian region, northern into Judah, and then formalized their own kingdom. And then eventually they grew powerful enough to merge with Israel proper and become their own kingdom. But it's very clear from the Amarna tablets. There's about 315 tablets from El Amarna that document what things were like in the middle of the Bronze Age around the 1300s when the Exodus theoretically would have been going on. And it's very clear in these tablets that Egypt still ruled over all of the land of Canaan. All of the towns within Canaan were sending letters back and forth to the Egyptian pharaoh saying, hey, listen, we need your help. Since you are in charge here, we need you to send provisions. We need you to send help, because all of the land, they couldn't escape Egypt and then go back into Egypt. Egypt was the entire land at that time.
Okay, are you guys finished making your points?
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, we know we shouted a lot at you, Jackie, but what you think, man?
So it's basically just perhaps I wasn't clear enough in my original formulation of the argument. You're saying there's one witness. But what I would say is there's one person who wrote down they were a witness. Now I'm curious, what do you believe is the origin that one person who wrote down themselves?
Hang on, you're asking the wrong question. You're asking the wrong question, Jackie. You are asking the wrong question already, because the question is not how did somebody come up with this. You are standing on the conclusion that 2 million witnesses all attesting to the same thing raises the likelihood that that thing occurred. And we're giving you that. We're granting you that. And then we go, let's look at the first one. And when we look at the first one, it says, hey, there's all these people. And what we're saying is, okay, so let's follow through with your criteria here. Where's the next witness? We've got one. I need 1.999999 more. Where are they? Asking the question of why did he just say 2 million? It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter yet.
Jackie, no, I'm going to ask Jackie a question. Jackie, what makes you think that he, for example, as an example, I could come up with 100 different answers, but let's say he made it up. Why wouldn't you accept that as a potential answer?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that's impossible, but I'm saying, what evidence do you have that it was made up? Or you're saying there's one witness?
I'm not saying. No. Wait. I'm not saying this happened. I'm just showing that your list has not eliminated all. I would have to provide evidence for this option if I was saying that this is what happened. That's not what I'm doing. I'm showing that your list does not exhaust all the possibilities. So if I show other things could happen, if I said this happened, then I would require to give you some evidence. But I'm saying that here's another possibility. Can you deny that this is a possibility? And if it's, and I could come up with 100 other possibilities. So your explanation of the only reason why he wrote this is because it actually happened seems ridiculous. There are many explanations for why he wrote that. Can you eliminate this option? You can't. So don't tell us that your explanation is the only answer. Does that make sense?
I don't believe it's the only answer. I think it's more likely answer because
why is yours more likely than mine? Okay. Here's another thing. It was a myth that he inherited from the environment that he was in. Okay. Here's another answer. So I have two answers. He made it up. And actually, the more likely answer, I think, is this one, that when people are writing religious texts, they are born into an environment where other myths are circulating around, and they inherit most of that from the environment that they're in. They might change it a little bit by mistake or on purpose, and this is likely what has happened. Okay? Why is your explanation that no, the guy saw this and that's why it literally happened and that's why he wrote it? Why is yours more likely than my explanation? I would say my answer is way more likely because we have seen what I described happen over and over and over and over again across many different religions. So people in taking the religion, the myth that are floating around where they are at, we've seen this happen in Japan, in China, in Korea, in the Middle East, and in the Americas. This is a known things that humans have done through civilization. So we haven't seen a single example of God revealing himself to millions of people. But what I'm describing, we have seen it happen over and over and over again. So that makes my explanation more likely than yours.
Well, in the case of the reason I am skeptical about the idea that it was a myth that was inherited by this person who was being transformed into a Jewish mythology is because why would they come? How would he have a referent for such an insanely large number of people?
That's actually, I will give you. People
because it was written at a time period when Israel was bigger. So the narrative of the Exodus was written at a time period in which the nation of Israel was much larger, and the number of people made sense to the author of the time period. But we know the time period of the actual Exodus, that would be an inconsistent number. That's actually larger than the overall population of Egypt.
Yeah, and also these numbers, these large numbers, religious people are obsessed with them, okay? I could tell you, go follow Hinduism. Look at these insane numbers that they come up with all the time. I come from an Islamic background. You have random big numbers to make something look like it's a big deal all over their mythology. So this is not surprising.
But you know why I know the laws of Moses weren't given by God? Because in Deuteronomy chapter 22, it quite literally says that if women don't bleed the first time they do the deed on their wedding night, that you can take them before the court, and as long as you can provide a bloody sheet, she won't get stoned. But if there's no sheet with blood on it, then you get stoned. But whoever wrote this was unaware that slightly less than 50% of women actually bleed their first time, which means God doesn't know biology or he's a monster.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jackie, we've been going for a little while now, and I honestly don't know how much longer I can take all of these shirts. So we are gonna let you go here and read some super chats and stuff. Get over to Discord and all that.
Before you read,
yeah.
Before you read super chats, no, I'm not going to talk to the caller. I'm just going to
Okay, well, hang on. Shut the fuck up then. Hang on just a second. Let me wrap up with Jackie. Thank you, Jackie. We appreciate you. Call us back in the future. Now go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, I think that we actually find the proof of God's existence. Like your colors suggest that atheists are the spawns of the devil.
You know what?
Coming directly from hell.
You know what?
Isn't that like all the proof?
You know what? There was a split second after I told you to shut the fuck up that I was like, oh man, I feel kind of bad about that. I don't feel fucking bad about it at all anymore. Fuck you.
Fuck you too.
We have $4.99 from Ramen Nakota saying, SR, you should now thank me for sending only $9.99 earlier. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ramen. And then $9.99 from Jamie Gallier, a member for 1 year. I hate seeing my favorite little dance monkey turning fuchsia. Well, why did you send another $10? Because I've got one more jacket here, and I guess as we're wrapping up here, we'll say kind of our goodbyes and stuff. But it's been a fun time. I always love hanging out with you, Armin. Seriously, man, we always have. great times. And you did 3 shows today. You were working like a madman. You know? I mean, you should be this covered, to be honest. Oh my God, this is crazy difficult. No, we really, really appreciate you, Justin, hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Deconstruction
you're
Zone on
amazing.
everything, right? People can find you all over the internet spaces and all that stuff, right?
I'm on all the social media now. I started on TikTok, and then I was like, well, TikTok's going to go away. I better get something else going.
You good? Yeah. It does seem like the social media landscape is changing up here.
It makes it so much easier to have to do these shows if we have Justin on, because I don't have to look things up. Everything biblical related. I was just like, Justin, is this? Yeah. I was like, I just have to check with Justin. I don't have to look about. This is makes our work a lot easier.
Yeah, I can you guys put me up on the single shot for just a second? I was told if we did this that I had to do this before we go. Yeah, thank you. So could I be wearing any more clothes? I don't watch Friends. I know you can yell at me all you want, people, but I was told that I had to do that. Look, we asked. I just want to say this, y'all. Okay, I'm not always disappointed with y'all, but sometimes a little bit. Okay, we said $10 super chats, 10, and you sons of bitches sent like 21. Okay, like I had to go get more shirts. You know what? I'm done. I don't care. I don't give a fuck what the crew says. I'm getting naked. This is ridiculous. Oh my God! Fucking assholes.
Bring 21 shirts.
Look, come to Discord. I'm gonna be naked. You can hang out or not. I don't care. How many shirts do I have on?
Look at the windows.
This one is soaked. This shirt at the closest to my chest is soaked right now. I can feel it sticking to me. All right. I hope you guys have better challenges in the future. Come to Discord. We're hanging out.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.